The Philadelphia Phillies and New York Mets make some massive additions to their bullpen today. We'll get into those trades and several other deals that were done as well. But first, welcome in everybody to the MLB Hot Stove Daily here at the Upside Sports Network. Smash that like button down at the bottom; goes quite a ways. Anyway, helping us out here at the Upside, and hit that subscribe if you haven't done so already. On the eve of the MLB trade deadline, we have several trades to announce as several trades have gone down in just the last 20 to 30 minutes. We'll also go through the next couple of hours here where we're going to get some activity as well. And then tomorrow, all day long, we're going to be live from 8 a.m. through the deadline. So make sure you guys tune in to us here at the Upside to stay up to date on all the latest from the MLB trade deadline. Welcome in JG, Sean, Anthony, Vinny as well. Appreciate you guys joining us. We'll go ahead and jump right into some of the action we've seen so far today. So we'll start anyway with some of the trades here. Yohan Duran, probably the biggest name that's moved so far. The Philadelphia Phillies acquire the elite closer from the Minnesota Twins. He was probably the best relief arm that is available. There is an argument to be had that Mason Miller will be moved. I still am of the belief that he will be moved, but Duran certainly on that same caliber there, but Philadelphia certainly improving their bullpen. The Mets, meanwhile, have made two trades to upgrade their bullpen. Ryan Helsley was one of the acquisitions they made from the St. Louis Cardinals in a smaller deal. And then the bigger trade, they ultimately gave up a ton of prospects in exchange for a submariner in Tyler Rogers. Mets fans everywhere were crying out in horror at the deal that they actually gave to the Giants, as the Giants have decided to sell since they've been Major League Baseball's worst team since the Rafi Devers trade. The Mariners upgraded their bullpen, bringing in an underrated Caleb Ferguson, probably going to be in the 7th, 8th inning role for them, but he's been pretty good for Pittsburgh this year. Those are some of the names we've seen move so far. The Chicago Cubs have also added Mike Soroka to their starting rotation. They were looking for a righty here at the deadline. They're also talking with the Nationals about Mackenzie Gore as well. I'm curious to see if they ultimately get that deal done, because now this is one of the arms out of that Nationals rotation. Not saying that they can't go back to the well there, but tells me that the price for Gore might have been a little bit too high for their liking or for what they would be able to acquire. We're still waiting on a lot of the names from the Miami Marlins to be moved. Diamondbacks still have a bunch of pieces to be moved. Pirates still have Bednar. He probably is the top closer on the market if Mason Miller does not move. Those are some of the names to watch out for. In just the last 20-30 minutes, we've seen Rafael Montero get traded from the Braves to the Detroit Tigers, as that is now their third trade, I believe, to beef up that bullpen. Kind of beefing up that roster in general, honestly. But nice work overall for the Tigers as they try to kind of steady the ship anyway after having some issues going into and out of the break. The most recent deal just getting agreed to in the last 5 minutes, Zach Little, who had a great start today for the Tampa Bay Rays against the Yankees in Yankee Stadium. I believe he threw 5 innings, 2 hits, 4 walks, 5 strikeouts. He was very good today, and he ends up going to the Cincinnati Reds. The Reds are buying here. They've added a couple of nice pieces to their roster as they try to push for a wild card spot. Vida, welcome in. Hope the Giants sell so guys can bring in some starters. They have nothing in the minors. Well, they're going to spend in the offseason. Now, they made their acquisition of Rafi Devers this year as kind of their spending right now to kind of get that big power bat in their lineup. Got to hope for better, obviously, from Devers, obviously. But, they're going to spend this offseason. So don't worry too much about the minor leagues, I would say, there in San Francisco. Of course, you want to have the better prospects. Everybody does, but I think just recalibrating that roster here over the second half, realizing you don't have a chance to really push forward and win a World Series this year, I think is the wise move, especially since you've been baseball's worst team since that Rafi Devers trade. Joshua Soroka to the Cubs is a joke. Two top 15 prospects for a guy as good as Flexen, who they just DFA'd. That was kind of the surprising part. Flexen's been very good this year. I'm surprised they DFA'd him, but they're looking for starting pitching, and what is he, 3-7, something like that on the year, with a 4.78 ERA so far. Flexen was the better arm so far this year, but they're looking for guys who've been starters all year long, and I guess they see something in Soroka. We'll see. Sarah, hey, Michael, and everyone, I love what we got for Helsley, and McMahon has been amazing for my Yankees. He's been pretty dang good. I will give you that one as well. Let's go ahead and head over to X and just see what else is going on at the moment. Update the page here. See if they have the return on Little. He is a free agent at the end of the year. Looks like the market on Keller could be cooling. That's a very interesting development there. Ben Cherington is in the final year of his deal with the Pirates. I'm a little bit surprised that he's not going to try to get a nice return on Mitch Keller because they need offense. So we shall see. Nationals are getting Christian Franklin and Ronnie Cruz for Soroka. Tampa Bay will get 2 players in return for Little. Teams are still going through the medicals. Everybody in New York is very happy with the trades that they made to upgrade their bullpen. Padres interested in Mason Miller. Still looking at Duran. I still don't see how they have the prospects to get it done. Dylan Cease is still a name being thrown out quite a bit. Jed Hoyer did get his job security. He's doing the bare minimum going forward. I guess if you kind of think about it that way, the Mike Soroka thing would make a little bit more sense as kind of a bare minimum. To me, they're all in still on this year, though. I mean, you don't make the trade for Kyle Tucker and then punt on the rest of the season after you get your extension. Although it is kind of unwise, I would suggest that the ownership group they gave him his extension beforehand. Otherwise, go ahead and make that move a couple of weeks later. I do like that idea, though, because I'm with you there as far as the Soroka deal. I still think they need an ace. Soroka, to me, is a 4 or 5 starter at best. Back when he was with the Braves, he was on the way to becoming an ace. Probably was the ace at the time. But injury, not being able to throw for 3 years, really derailed his career. Had a nice year last year out of the bullpen. Maybe they're envisioning him coming out of the bullpen. But you already had that with Chris Flexen to some degree. And he's had a better year. Let's see if any other notifications have popped. Finally, some of these columnists who don't like to play GM are finally playing GM with an intel that they have. Of course, they don't tell us all of it, which kind of sucks. I'm still waiting for the surprise deal. Because there's been nothing that's really like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that player was traded. I guess Rafi Devers is going to be the best player that's dealt from an offensive perspective. A lot of relievers changing teams right now. Will the Cubs add another starter at the deadline? I also heard they want another outfielder. I do believe they will add another starter. I still think they're going to get their ace wherever they get it, whether it be Gallen, Kelly, Cease. Unlikely to be Keller at this point, although I don't consider him an ace anyway. Cabrera, again, I don't consider him an ace, but would help out that rotation. And Mackenzie Gore, kind of a borderline ace when he's going well. Locked On Nats podcast said they wanted Shaw, Horton, Busters, and Casey for Gore. You take out Shaw and you probably put in, I don't know, probably a top 6 prospect in there. I think that deal probably gets done. But including Shaw, I think would be a no-go. All right, let's head over to MLB Trade Rumors, see what the most recent stories are. All right, what other moves do we have here? Oh, I forgot one about the Reds. They did add Ke'Bryan Hayes from the Pirates today. A couple of prospects going back the other way. Good on the Pirates, getting off with some money there. I wonder if they find another taker for Brian Reynolds as well to kind of clear the financial books there. Maybe that's the way that Cherington thinks he's going to save his job, by saving the owner money. Wouldn't be the craziest way to save your job. I do think the Guardians absolutely are selling at this deadline, and they will find a home for Kwan and for Shane Bieber, it sounds like. The question I have, the bigger, more impactful question for the long-term future of the Guardians, I'm Jose Ramirez. Everybody around me is either on suspension now for gambling issues. Maybe another player is going to come down the pike with another gambling suspension. Who knows? There's already two guys in that clubhouse that are gone. Who knows if either one of those players ever play a game ever again. Kwan looks like he's headed out of town, and the Guardians are looking to find a match there. Cade Smith, your other top reliever, is looking like he's going to be headed out of town as well. And you're already going to have some issues in the rotation right now. I like the message that you had up there earlier, Anthony, about the Guardians' interest in a controllable starting pitcher. Well, yeah, they're going to kind of need some here. But if I'm Jose Ramirez and I'm seeing all this going on around me, I've got a no-trade clause. I'm on a team-friendly contract. I took a discount to stay in Cleveland because I love playing in Cleveland. Do I love playing in Cleveland that much to sit through all of this and stay silent? For one. Do I sit through all of this, stay silent, and not ask for a trade? If I'm willing to take a trade, where would I go to? How much longer is J-Ram going to sit there and just wait and wait and wait for this team to get out of its own way, to invest in this team? Remember, all the talk immediately after the season last year was, just wait, the Guardians are really going to invest and go all in and try to add around this roster. We get to the winter meetings and we're like, oh, I guess not. They're going to go ahead and trade Josh Naylor. They're going to bring in his replacement in Carlos Korea and kind of do what they've always done and, trade away a good asset for more controllable assets and continue to build and build and build, but never go all out for it and try to win. I mean, the Guardians had a great team last year. We're having a great run of success. Could have been a fluke, absolutely. I don't think anybody saw how good of a season they were going to have last year and said, oh, yeah, that's something we can count on. But they had enough talent there that all the guys were still going to be around. There was no need to go ahead and make any changes to Josh Naylor there. Naylor, of course, goes to Arizona, has more of a career average here instead of a career season like he had in 24 with the Guardians. But either way, I'm J-Ram. I'm sitting there going, Kwan's going to be heading out of town. Clase is going to be suspended, possibly banned from baseball for life until death. I've got same thing for a young pitcher, Luis Ortiz. Not a huge piece currently, but would have been a big piece of that team going forward. Cade Smith is looking like another trade piece out of town. Shane Bieber, who's been on the team a long time with me, is likely to head out of town. What reason do I have to stay? So that's one thing I'm kind of watching here over the next 24 hours. I've heard nothing from the national reporters on it, and I kind of get the reasons why they haven't really talked about it. But at a certain point, you have to look at it and go, hey, he's a truly spectacular player, one of the singularly most gifted players on such a cheap contract. The value for the team is just incredible. That would net them a massive return in a trade as well. So how much longer is J-Ram going to sit there in silence and say, hey, I'm fine playing here in Cleveland? All right, we're still waiting for some of the bigger names to move here at the deadline. On the offensive side, the best rental bat is still out there, Gino Suarez, so we'll see what happens there. Willard, welcome in. Brandon, welcome back. Appreciate you joining us. You think the Astros get Dylan Cease? I think there's a good chance that they will. I think that they're going to add at least a couple of different pieces here. We'll see which direction they go. Posted a video earlier today about the Astros kicking the tires on the idea of a possible reunion with Carlos Korea. Now, Korea seems like he'd be open to it, basically saying he'd waive that no-trade clause right now to go back to Houston. But this is way too far away for it to be even a reality or think something in reality. He's kind of posting it as something in the offseason that could be revisited. We'll see, but we all know everybody gets a little bit desperate at the trade deadline. And with Isaac Paredes now officially going to be out the rest of the season due to that hamstring injury, they have an opening there at third base. The question will be in the next year, what do they do at third base with the Korea and a healthy Paredes there? But that's a problem for next season, so we'll have to see. I think J-Ram, though, is a very interesting topic to keep an eye on over the next 24 hours because if Kwan goes here, I think all eyes shift in Cleveland to J-Ram. Is he really going to stay there now that Kwan would be traded? But let's wait and see where Kwan goes first. If they end up holding on to Kwan, maybe J-Ram's topic or the J-Ram subject won't come up. But we shall see. Do the Cubs end up with Gino Suarez? Their Tigers were actually an interesting fit there. A lot of national pundits are saying the Tigers will end up ponying up to bring him in. The Reds are still in that conversation. Cubs to me and the Mariners. My pick is still going to be the desperation coming from the Cubs on their all-in season. With the extension now for Jed Hoyer, maybe that cools the tires there a little bit, and the Mariners end up taking that spot there. Brandon, watch Toronto is going to come in last. second for Suarez and get him for almost free? I don't think so. I think he'll still cost a pretty penny. J-Ram come to Toronto. Like what you're thinking about before you sign? Uh, yeah. Let's see here. Sean, do you think Owen Casey gets traded? I think he will. I think there's a good chance that he will be traded for a controllable starting pitcher. I do not think he'll be traded for a rental option. Let's see here. Ethan Heyman is saying Osuna to Texas is likely. I think that we see the writing on the wall now with Jock Peterson getting benched today. Well, I shouldn't say benched. That Higashioka swinging a hot bat. Peterson didn't have good numbers against Soriano, so they went with a hot bat and Higashioka. That was the reasoning Bruce Bochy gave us. Let's be realistic here, though. Peterson was not good before the injury, has come back, and it's only been 2 games, but he still looks like a shell of his former self. There's a lot of pressure on him, of course. I'm not sure he's going to be able to pull out of the tailspin this season. He's going to be on your roster next year because he has that player option, so you're kind of stuck with him. However, there are ways that you can put him on the IL, say he tweaked a hammy or whatever. There's always something nagging these players at this point in the season, so find something. Do what they did in the 23 season with Brad Miller, and then hope he comes into spring training in 24 and is better. That would be one way the deal with Osuna would make sense to me, but I would not be surprised if the Rangers ended up adding a closer, a right-handed bat, and according to Jeff Wilson of the DLLS Sports anyway, he believes they're also looking for a catcher, which I find very interesting. They have 2 really good ones. Higashioka, of course, hitting really good, really strong right now. Heim seems to be turning things around in just the last week or 2. But we saw in 23, they added Austin Hedges. Maybe that's the piece they go out there and get again, kind of a clubhouse guy, that really helps kind of bring that team together, bring the fun back to the game. He was instrumental in that clubhouse for the Rangers in 23. They could revisit that idea. The trade we posed last night was Adley Rutschman. We posed a couple others with Sean Murphy as well. There's a couple of catchers. If they're looking for a catcher of some significance to upgrade over Heim, there are options available. You think Bednar is a J tomorrow? I think that's a legitimate option. I think the Tigers are going to be right there for him. Prices are going to go up quite a bit here on elite closers. Mason Miller's price went up after Clase got that suspension and Duran is now traded. We finally had a top 100 prospect traded for the first time in 3 years. So hopefully that kind of breaks the seal on some bigger trades, but we shall see. Chris, welcome in. Ryan to the Cubs, I would love that. Let's see if that's actually a tweet or if that's something that's happening right now. You have me wondering, Chris. Nothing there. Okay. But I would love Joe Ryan going to the Cubs. I think he would be a great number 1 for them. Can we do a Maton trade? We can. Bring Mason Miller to the Yankees. That's an expensive trade, but I think he would be a great option for them in their bullpen, kind of shorten the game a little bit. They still need pitching, though, starting pitching specifically. But we shall see. Let's go ahead and fire up the trade machine and see what we can cook up here. We'll start with, let's see here. Wonder what we get for a Mats and Maton, Sarah. I'll go ahead and do a Mats Maton type of a trade. The Mets are one team that's looking at Phil Maton. I know they've already upgraded their bullpen a couple of different ways already. Gregory Soto, now they brought in Rogers, and now Helsley. Maybe they dip their toe back into the St. Louis Cardinals again. I'm not sure how that bullpen would ultimately work out, but if they brought in a Maton, I think that would be an interesting option. He's only a value of 2. So you're not going to get like a top 10 prospect out of somebody's system. You might get a couple of top 20 guys, though. From the Mets. Come on. There we go. Okay. You're not getting any of those. Let's see. Go down a little lower here. We got a lot of young, good prospects here. If I'm the Cardinals, I still prefer pitching more than anything else as far as the return. Nothing really there speaks to me. Ovalis. Luis Rodriguez. Say you do it for Luis Rodriguez as kind of the headliner. And then you get Ovalis as well. You get 2 starting pitcher prospects back. Not a bad deal, and that helps build out the Mets bullpen. You get a couple of young starters there. Ethan Walcott for Griffin Jackson, Carlos Korea. Twins pay the whole contract. They aren't paying the whole contract. In fact, they're trying to change ownership right now, so they're very unlikely to retain any money at all. The only way I think you could get some money help there is if you send Jock Peterson back the other way, but that's not worth including Sebastian Walcott for something like that. But prices are extraordinarily high. Eduardo Tate was the first top 100 guy that was traded in the past 3 years. Let's just show you where he ranks anyway in this window here. He was number 56. Let me update this page and see if they've updated his team. Nope, not yet. So 56. If you're going to get a top 4 prospect, which is what Walcott is right now, I believe, under this, top 4, it's going to cost a heck of a lot to be able to get that piece out of there. Master Vinman, welcome back. Been a minute since I've seen you. What would a Jax for Bloss plus a Major League bat? Would that be enough? I don't know. We can look at it, though. Let's see here. Breggy, we'll do your trade next anyway. Mason Miller to the Yankees. If you guys want me to do your trade, go ahead and send it in the chat. I do think the A's are looking to move him at the deadline and see if they can get some nice starting pitching prospects coming back to them. So Mason Miller to the Yanks. I think the Yanks offer would have to start with either Will Warren or Cam Schlitter. I think Schlitter would be the preference. Then you do Cunningham. You get 2 starting pitcher prospects, 2 good ones. And I think you demand Carlos LaGrange as well. You get 3 pieces there, and you're pretty dang close to the value. I think you might have to throw in one more small piece here just to kind of push it over the top. So let's do like Hersan Alejandro. That deal for 4 starters, one of them immediately goes into the rotation right now. I think the Yankees probably say yes to this because it's only taking 1 piece off of the roster. But they still need more pitching even after this deal. Not too bad. Raymond, welcome back. Eli, welcome in. Appreciate you joining us once again. I'll go ahead and post this one here. Let's go ahead and do another deal. Bednar to the Blue Jays. I don't hate the idea, but let's see here. Trying to see if I missed any other trade proposals y'all were wanting to do. Nope. Okay, so let's see here. Let me scroll down. Walcott for Griffin Jax. Plays on contract. Not enough there. Jax for Bloss. We can do that one. Let's go ahead and do that one for you there, Brandon. Twins. Welcome in, Lock Smart. Been a minute since I've seen you. Cease to the Yankees, I think, is a little bit more unlikely. Not a 0% chance, but unlikely. I do think Bednar to the Tigers has a real chance. Cease, though, just seems a lot more like the Chicago Cubs type of a target. I think the Yankees are looking for more controllable assets, especially in light of the Aaron Judge injury. CY and the Rangers are going to wait until the buzzer, it looks like. They've done it in years past. I think that the 2 games that they played against Anaheim so far really kind of accentuated the 2 needs that they really have. Bullpen help, kind of make to allow you to use those better relievers that you have in the 7th and 8th innings, and then have somebody in the 9th that you trust. And then adding another bat to this lineup. They're hitting the ball all over the place a little bit here and there, but they're not driving in the runs as well as they need to when they do those kinds of things. So I think they're going to try to add a power bat. I think they're also going to do somebody who can control the strike zone a little bit, see some pitches, those kinds of things. What do you think of the package the Cardinals got? I thought it was pretty good. I actually like the package as well. Let's see here. Do you think the Red Sox would get Alcantra? I'm a bit concerned they won't pay up. I think there's a chance of it. That kind of fits their need of a controllable starter of what they said they're looking for. Cost is going to be a lot less than a Mitch Keller or a Cabrera or something like that. But that'd be a very gettable arm who's pitched well the last couple of games here. Did we get something else here? Thanks to Wheels, Seager Rangers take a 2-1 lead in the 6th. He reached on a drop line drive to center to start the inning, then went to second on a wild pitch. That's the other thing. The Rangers have not been playing good defense so far these 2 games. They got to tighten it up a little bit against the Angels today. Chris Hammett, Cubs, what would it take for them to get Ryan, throw in Castro, Wiggins? I think Wiggins would definitely have to be in that deal. Why am I thinking Astros? That's Blue Jays, isn't it? Yeah. You're not getting Griffin Jacks as the major league piece now. If you threw in Roden, you'd still not be close. I think you're too far away on that valuation there. How many Orioles are getting traded before tomorrow? I'd say several. I'd say probably at least 2 of their starters, Morton, Eflin, go. I think there's an outside chance Rogers goes. Sugano probably could be gone. I'd probably say at least 2 more of their bullpen arms could go. Then you have O'Hearn, Laureano. Those names as well. Let's go ahead and do that Twins trade, though. Who was your team there? I forget who your team was. The Cubs? What would it take for them to get Joe Ryan? Well, it's going to cost quite a bit. Ryan's value, I believe, is at 70 now. They dropped it just a hair. 68.3. Well, you're going to have to start the deal, I'd imagine, with Cade Horton. Ballesteros, they're looking for catching, which is why they got Tate as well. Perheyman, Ramon Urias to the Stros. I like that. I like that a lot. The Sir Anthony Dominguez trade looks even better now, yeah. Welcome in, Pure Muscle. Cubs cooking up. Yeah, we can go ahead and do this Cubs trade, but I love Ramon Urias to the Astros. I think that pretty much ends the Carlos Correa talk back to the Astros right now. Like Correa said, it's probably more of an off-season trade if the Stros were to make that one happen. I think a team would have to take on the majority of that contract for Correa to move during the season, and of course waive as no trade. That's a lot to have happen within the next 24 hours. I guess we're down to about 18 hours now until the deadline. Curious to see what the return is going to be for Urias here. Tyler Owens gets DFA'd. You're going to have a lot of guys DFA'd this next couple of days. Yankees got Cease. Not yet. I don't see anything that says that, no. All right, let's finish this trade here. Got a few pieces in here. Horton and Ballesteros to get this deal started. You still need about another 30. To me, Casey would be the demand. And then I think Wiggins would be the 4th piece here. They finally fixed his value. He's up to 9.8. So they added about 5 to his value. So how close are you? You're darn close there. Utility guy, yes, but I think he's probably going to be your primary third baseman the rest of the year. After the injury to Paredes, and he's not coming back. Fine Sand tweeting it out right now. Now, if they did still want to go after Korea, I suppose they could still do something like that. But he is a utility player. They could play him a little bit different spots. But I still think he's going to end up being the third baseman there. Remember, the Astros are notoriously, I don't want to say cheap, but frugal with the contracts they give out. The reason why they didn't bring back Carlos Correa is because of the money there. And I don't think they'd take back the money there, especially with it being high the next few years. Now, the vesting options, I don't think any team would argue against those. Those all are very reasonable, and you could have him on a bit of a bargain deal for the final 5 years of that contract if all the options end up getting picked up. But for the next few years, that's a hefty price tag to swallow if indeed the injuries start to stack up for him. But if you're a Cubs fan, would you take this deal? Horton, Ballesteros, Casey, and Wiggins for Joe Ryan. You get him for 2 more years and this season, so you get 3 playoff runs out of him. and he's on one of the most cheap or one of the most cost-effective contracts for a starter in baseball right now. I literally was looking up his value versus all the other contracts in the sport. It was his and there's one other starter as well, but I can't remember his name off the top of my head. But that's the guy right now that has so much surplus value in relation to the contract that he's on. Tigers hoping to turn Rafael Montero back into the 2022 form. He has been good in the past. I think that version of him is gone. A little bit surprised that they chose to bring him in because I wouldn't. I just think he's going to make that bullpen a little bit worse there. Could you see the Jays trading for Koreah to replace Bo in the offseason? Possibly. Kind of taking on that contract from the Twins. I could see that as an option if they don't retain Bo Bichette. Astros will trade Milton for Cease. Next it is what they do. I think that's a legitimate one. That would give them a corner outfielder, which has been their ask for Dylan Cease this entire time. The question is, what would they get in return for their rotation? Maybe they go get one of the Orioles guys for cheap. That's always a possibility. One other headline that did catch my eye that, he's pitching better his last few starts. Justin Verlander is supposedly on the block. You heard me. Justin Verlander is on the block. Detroit, I'm just saying it, they just made the trade for Chris Paddock. I'm not sure they even knew Justin Verlander was an option. Now they do. Do they try to bring him home and let him finish his career there in Detroit? Say the heck with Chris Paddock. We know we got you, but we're going to utilize you like we do, like Michael Kopech was after we figured out he couldn't stay healthy in the rotation. Do they bring back Justin Verlander? Let us know in the chat. What would you guys say for the Detroit Tigers bringing back a Justin Verlander? Thumbs up in the chat if you like it. Thumbs down if you're like, his best days are behind him. You'd rather stick with the rotation you've got. No matter the goodwill it would bring your franchise. Astros is a possibility as well. Yankees would be an interesting team for them. They need starting pitching. We someone legit? I'm kind of curious, what are his numbers this year? Because that's one name that I think that with the Giants now declaring themselves a seller. Why did it go Astros? Giants. There it is. Still not used to him being on the Giants. There he is. 4.5 ERA. That must be a career low there. Let's see here. Game logs. 3.8. So far in July, a 5.4 ERA. Let's see. Had one game against the A's where he gave up 6 runs. But other than that, he's been pretty good. 6 innings against Philadelphia. Oh, Toronto, he did get lit up as well, it looks like. Pittsburgh, of course, he pitched well. No surprise there. Atlanta couldn't get out there or hit their way out of a wet paper bag that series against the Giants. He's still got something there. The little trade is a 3-teamer. Interesting. Welcome in, Mark. Been a minute since I seen you. Saw you like the post on Facebook. I appreciate that. If you guys want to follow us on X at Upside Ascend or on Facebook, Upside Sports Network, more than encourage you guys to. Make sure you guys hit that like at the bottom of the video. Goes a long way to helping us out. Got about 60 of you guys with us right now and only 15 likes. Let's see if we can bump up that number, shall we? Remember, we're going to be live all day tomorrow. Eovaldi is getting better with age, yes. Anthony, Michael, can you do a trade where Edward Suarez goes to the Guardians if it makes any sense? Where there would be a buyer and a seller? I think that could be part of the return for, say, Stephen Kwan. But I think in order for them to do something like that, the team that they're trading Kwan to would rather have Edward Cabrera anyway. So I don't think that would necessarily be likely. I think it's better for them to just do a straight-up deal. I don't think the Guardians are going to be giving up prospects that the Marlins are going to want in return for Cabrera. So I don't think they're going to pivot from trade away Kwan and then send prospects back the other way to where they buy and sell traditionally like that. I just don't see that. What time we starting tomorrow? We are starting at 8 a.m. Central. Requested off for tomorrow to make sure I could do the trade deadline with you guys. What bat could the Rangers get? Right now, I still think there's going to be a bigger bat that none of us are talking about. CY does not do small things. If he believes in his team, which he has the best pitching staff in the game, the rotation has been the best all year. The bullpen has been the best since June, I believe. They're starting to show some wear, though, because of all the innings they've had to eat towards the back of that, towards the All-Star break. And they don't really have a proven closer. They've coughed up some games late because of that. And even with those issues, they still have one of the best offenses, or one of the best bullpens. So we shall see. You're off for a week. That's nice. We already got Paddock. He is as good as Verlander. Yeah, that's kind of I think Paddock has been worse, actually. He's been, 8 home runs. His ERA is, 7.8 in his last 5 starts? Something like that. But I'm just saying, Verlander is available. Giants will be selling. Welcome in, Josh. Appreciate you joining us. Can Detroit get Ryan O'Hearn, Tigers? Can Detroit get Ryan O'Hearn to the Tigers by tomorrow morning or tonight? I do think there's a legitimate chance that they add at least one bat. They're still in there for Suarez. I think a lot of the bats are being held up by that deal. It's sounding like that deal is probably going to happen in the morning tomorrow. But we shall see. Brandon, the last time the Blue Jays were in this situation, they went for Tulo and Price and Revere. They are going to go crazy tomorrow probably. Michael, knowing Chris Young, I think he's going to get Kyle Stowers. That would be a great piece. I wouldn't mind that one. Little just through today, yes. Who are you saying? Paddock threw today? I can't remember if he threw today or not. I'm guessing that's probably who you're referring to there. Game logs, where are you? There it is. Yeah, he did throw today. 6 innings, 3 hits. That's pretty good. Struck out 5, 84 pitches. Against Arizona, Arizona's been playing really poorly lately. Like, they're kind of a listless team right now. They really are. We've seen how bad they played over the last, I don't know, since the All-Star break, really, maybe a little bit before that. Marlins literally said Stowers is not getting traded, so how are you getting Stowers? I wouldn't trade Kyle Stowers, but there's so many reports out there about Stowers. I'm curious about it. I still don't think it's going to happen, but I'm curious. Benny, welcome in. We need Pete Fairbanks and a guy like Kyle Finnegan. Fairbanks gave up a save today. No thank you. Finnegan isn't enough of an improvement. No thank you either. You know, there's a lot of bullpen arms that are out there that might be decent improvements for a roster. If I had to pick between those two, Fairbanks would be the one I would get, but the best one to me is still Mason Miller. That's on the market. Contract value, all those kinds of things. But Bednar is kind of the cost-effective, elite closer that's still there. He's having a really strong season this year. Let me check out X and see if anything else is happening. A lot of trades have happened here over the last 4 hours. Fine Sand. Astros are making a big push for Dylan Cease, with one source saying the starter is Houston's main target. Interesting. Interesting. I am really thinking that Melton's going to get moved for him. I don't think they're going to get a better offer than Melton, honestly. Probably a straight-up one-for-one deal. Let me check out the scores real quick. It has to be Melton. The only other way it would work is Alvarez and maybe another piece. But I think they would want somebody who could go on the roster now. Ooh, there's a change in the game there. A's got out to fell behind in the first inning, 1-0. A's have come back 4-1 there. Padres don't want prospects. Well, they don't really have any to begin with anyway. But they need pieces on the active roster. Twins are kind of listless as well. Teams that are just kind of going through the motions right now. Twins, Diamondbacks, Braves, really. Nationals to some degree. Giants are in that conversation of teams just kind of Did we get another tweet here? No, it's just the Find Santa notification. Okay. Yours is under control for another season, indicating the Orioles are not only trading players on the expiring contracts. Andrew Kittredge, Ramon Laureano, both of whom have club options for 26 on their deals, also could be candidates to move. No kidding. I mean, if it's not Houston, it could be the Jays. They have plenty of MLB bats. I do like that idea as well because they have a couple of names that would be nice fits out there in San Diego. Varsho was one of the names that we mentioned. Andrew Friedman, the prospect order. I like that. If the A's played like this all year, they'd have been a better team, but they still a bright future ahead. That offense is pretty lethal, man. They just don't have the pitching, and they don't have the horses coming for that pitching either. Kyle Finnegan to the Tigers before the trade deadline. I would like that for them. Heyman also tweeting about Dylan Cease. I wonder if this deal is coming close because you're getting multiple tweets on Dylan Cease right now. Astros among the teams trying to land Dylan Cease. He would be the best rental ace that you could get, I suppose, at the deadline here. That rotation with probably Brown number 1, Valdez 2, Cease 3 would be really good in the postseason. How's Kittredge doing this year? A's just drafted Jamie Allner. But I'm saying, like, they don't have anybody coming, like, immediately. They need to continue to beef up that. One arm is not a, pipeline make. We'll see. More arm moves today than... Oh, my. Sarah, Phil Maton and Matts are staying in St. Louis while the team is traveling to San Diego. Yeah, I think they know they can pack up their stuff. They're on their way out of town. I think both of those guys are trades that happen tomorrow, probably in the final couple hours before the deadline. I don't think they're going to rush those moves. Detroit need a third baseman before the trade deadline. They're still in there for Suarez. Got 68 of you guys in here with us. Make sure you guys hit that like down at the bottom of the video. The more you guys chat and interact with this, the better this thing gets, and the better the chat goes. So it's a lot more fun when you guys interact with us. Really do appreciate you guys joining us, though. Those of you guys who are new here, thank you guys for subscribing. We've gained, I think, like 50 subscribers in the last 3 or 4 days alone. It's kind of been nice. J.G. Strohs wanted Cease. Last year, I feel like they re-signed him to a 2 or 3 year deal. They like him a lot, especially if Framber walks. He would be Framber insurance if they could get him on an extension. I'm not sure he would sign one. I think he wants to go into free agency or at least test the waters like Valdez will. I still think both of those guys would be within the price range of what the Astros could afford, of within that 5 years at, say, $30 million per season. I think that's generally what the price range has been for the Astros for long-term contracts before. I think they'd be willing to sign something along those lines. Do you think the Cubs get Suarez? They're still my favorite to end up with Eugenio Suarez. Mariners are still right there, though. I think with the Jed Hoyer extension does kind of throw a little bit of a wrench in my thinking, though. They're already all in for on the season bringing in Kyle Tucker. You make the deal to go ahead and sign extension for Hoyer. Maybe he'll hold on to his prospects a little bit more tightly now that he knows he's got a contract. Whereas the Mariners are all in on the season, or at least all in here at the deadline for a high-end relief arm. They bring in Caleb Ferguson, not exactly a high-end guy, but somebody who's pitched very, very well. They make the trade for Josh Naylor, and there's still an opening there at third base. And they've had him before, so they've got some comfort level with the player already. What do you think about Phil Maton to the Rangers? Not exactly the type of arm I think the Rangers are looking for. They're looking for somebody with high velocity, strikeouts, swing and miss, chase stuff, those types of things. Maton's been very, very good, but I also think they're looking for a closer first and foremost of all those things. Tigers should look at Arenado, possibly, but the finances there are a little bit hairy, especially when you already had your issues with the finances about signing Bregman this offseason. How much money are you willing to take on for Nolan Arenado? He's got Jack Perkins. There's still not enough there. Usually you want to have 5, 6, 7 guys that have a legitimate chance to at least break through AAA and go to the big leagues because maybe 1 or 2 of those guys hits. When you only have 1 or 2 that you're pinning your hopes to, it's a thin group. And so I think they're going to utilize this time between now and the time they actually get to Vegas to be able to build up that the starting pitching there. And I think they're going to have a couple of pieces they have on their roster right now that are going to help do that. Mason Miller is one of those guys. I think they should trade him now. His value is probably best right now anyway. Soderstrom, I think, is playing out of position right now. I think his value is also best right now because of that playing out of position. I think it'll only drop as it goes, even though the bat, I think, will still play out there in left. And then they also have Severino and Springs who are holding it down until they get to Vegas. So, I think their goal is to be a good team when they get to Vegas. I don't think they necessarily are worried about anything else. The last piece there is Brent Rooker. I think that deal was meant to be traded towards the back half of it, so we'll see if they end up holding on to him by the time they do end up getting to Vegas. Miami should trade Sandy and keep Edward. They're going to trade both of those guys. They're not going to hold on to those guys. They're looking to trade them. They've been looking to trade those guys for over a year now. And now that they're healthy and performing, maybe they can finally get a nice return. The Rangers have never had a pitcher able to rise to the occasion the way Nathan Eovaldi does. He's the best I've ever seen with this team. 7 innings tonight, a run. He allowed 1 or no runs in 12 of his last 13 games. Wow. Dude is good. Be nice for them to score some runs for him or have a closer that they could trust. I know they have Robert Garcia back there, and he's been good, but getting that final out, and I'm not talking about the first and second out in the 9th inning, getting that final out, more specifically that final strike, the emotion just seems to amp up in him, and the Rangers just need somebody who can let those motions, flow through him, but not override him, because it gets a little wild in that scenario, and that's how the Rangers have lost a couple of games late as a result of some wildness. He's not the only culprit, though. The Rangers have had a lot of issues in that regard. Rangers should have never released Adrian Hauser. There wasn't really a spot for him. Patrick Corbin's been great this year. I think if you had to pick between the two, you'd still rather have the longevity of Patrick Corbin going into the year because you had no idea Hauser was going to be this good. Even during spring training, he wasn't pitching this well. Chris Young this year, or Evo CY or Cy Young this year. I'm not sure he gets enough innings. That's my only concern. I think if he gets to the innings and hits the qualifying mark, he's going to have a full, half run better than anybody else on the ERA side of things, to where I think he's going to have a legitimate chance to get it done. Michael, I know you're engaged, but tomorrow we have a big day with the deadline watch along. Don't worry, I was watching a while ago. Appreciate you joining us, my friend. Bennett, welcome in. First time I think I've seen you in here. Your Orioles are trading everyone, even Ramon Urias. I think you kind of knew they were, though. Seager not having a great game today. 3 strikeouts. Kind of shaking off the rust of the day off. I don't think it was necessarily wise to give him a day off here. What would it take to get Suarez and then Hauser? Hauser's value is around 6. So you're looking maybe Triantos, maybe Juan, what's the shortstop's name? Juan Velez? I can't remember his name from Chicago. He's around a 3 valuation point. Juan Tomas, that's it. Maybe a Juan Tomas and a Justin Long, who's having a nice year this year at AAA, I believe. That might get it done for Hauser. I think Long would probably start right now for the White Sox on that roster if he was with Chicago or with the White Sox there. As far as Suarez, I think you're looking a little bit more expensive. I think you're probably looking Jackson Wiggins heads up, or maybe a Kevin Alcantra. I don't think Casey gets the deal done there though, because I think the Cubs probably say no to that. What I see happening is Dylan goes to Houston, Edward goes to San Diego, Miami gets prospects from both. Maybe. I'm still waiting to see some news out of Miami because they haven't really sold anything yet. Texas will do nothing at this deadline this year and fall short. I'm beginning to worry about that as well, but I have too much faith in Chris Young to basically say that they're not going to add here. They say they've got a 3-teamer cooking out there with Tampa Bay. Let me update this page because I'm curious who the third team is. They're sending Palmer in the Urias deal. Okay. Who do you think will be the next Oriole traded? Probably another bullpen arm, maybe Kittredge. Is Soroka good? Not really. Who do you think will be? I already did that one. Ian, welcome in. First time I think I've seen you in here. Hopefully the Tigers pick up Suarez from Arizona and maybe another bullpen arm. If that happens, you'll be thrilled. I'm questioning the arms they've acquired so far because I don't believe those arms are necessarily good. I do like that they're adding to the bullpen because they've really struggled since the All-Star break or even before that. But they've kind of steadied themselves a little bit here. But I think the next 10, 15 days will be really telling where this Detroit Tigers team is headed. Not Twine Palmer. Do you think it makes sense for the Rangers to do 2 of these? First, get Daniel Bedard from the Orioles, and then Anthony Bender from Miami? Maybe. I think if they're going to go less than Bednar, I think they'll end up going with some of the Rockies guys or maybe the Rays guys. They've been talking to both of those teams quite a bit. Padres want to flip Melton in a bigger deal for Jarren Duran. That would be an interesting deal, but the Red Sox don't need Melton. Saint Vintage, welcome back. Which center fielder will the Mets get? I still believe they're going to end up with Robert. The Phillies or Mets, I think, will end up with Robert. The other one will get Mullins, and I don't really like Mullins, so whoever gets Robert definitely wins the better acquisition in center field. Angels do angel stuff, things, trading for a bunch of stuff, and then DFAing them. Well, I mean, we saw how that all happened with Shohei, so, we'll see. I'm still curious who the third team is going to be in that Reds-Rays trade. Who else is going to be included in there? Do you have Chris Young's number so you can tell him to make some moves? I don't, unfortunately. I think you can probably hold a poster outside of the stadium right now and somebody will notice you and relay the message. Mets like Quan also. Oh, got to do it. I love this part from Evan Grant. He has so much fun with it. Yeet! Home run, Adolis. That's one of my favorites that he posts all the time. 4-2. In the 8th. So what did Simeon got on base hit? Okay. Giving him some breathing room. That was a big at bat. That's why I don't think Adolis Garcia is going to go anywhere. Because even when he's not been very good recently, like as far as like average wise, he's still coming through with a base hit there or here or there in a big spot. I don't think the Rangers, when they're trying to win, are going to let him go away. 4 letters, 1 word. I love that. Absolutely. Poor Mike Trout in perpetual purgatory. Well, he signed up for it. The loyalty in him will not allow him to go elsewhere. But as far as Quan goes, I think that's absolutely going to happen. I think the Dodgers are looking for a big name, and I think they're the team that gets him. Who else do you think the Cubs will get? I think they'll get an ace of some kind. Adolis is only good after the 7th inning and okay. He's not exactly a well-rounded player, I will say that. But he's been better than he was, for the first couple of months of the year. That's part of the reason why the team started to turn around, along with Marcus Semien. Where did my Monster Semien go after leaving my Jays? He's been not good. He's been up and down with the Rangers. 1 year good, 1 year bad, 1 year good, 1 year bad. And the years that he actually starts horribly, like career worst numbers horribly for 2 months, he then hits like 300 the rest of the year. And Simeon's kind of been doing the same thing again this year. Same vintage. Do the Mets give the 8th pen spot to Brazoban or Blackburn, or still try to find a lesser guy like Fairbanks? I think they'll try to add one more guy. I've heard a lot of names, but I think Maton is probably the most likely if I had to throw a dart. Michael, do you like the 2 trades for the Rangers for the relievers that from Bedard from the Orioles and then Bender from the Miami? I don't think those improve the Rangers enough, though. I think that's more like spinning the tires, I guess. I mean, who do they take over in the bullpen for? Curvelo right now, I think, is up on the Major League roster to make that trade for an elite closer, and his spot immediately gets DFA'd after the game. Like, done. Like, that's easy. Roster clearing move. That's the reason why he's there, to kind of throw an inning to save the bullpen if he was needed today. Basically, he would get his Major League debut if he even got into the game. I think that spot is basically going to go away. I think they're looking bigger names first, though. I think they're looking closers. I think Halverson's more likely. Vodnik is more likely. Who else am I thinking of? Bednar, I think, is very likely. Everybody keeps forgetting about Suarez from the Padres as well. I think there's a good chance he goes. If the Rangers decide to do something big in the bullpen, maybe Mason Miller is still out there. All of those guys I take before I go with either of the 2 that you mentioned there. Not that they're not bad options. It's just that I think the Rangers are looking bigger game hunting. Trade, see why I like that one, Heel. So they're flipping a prospect to a 3rd team. Interesting. All right, they helped him. Contracted Dolis and Heim are really clutch, but first half of games they just look lost. Heim's looked better as of late, kind of taking the ball the other way early in games, actually. Beware Fairbanks in cold weather due to his condition, though. That and he kind of blew the game today. Where does Miller go? Got to think big name teams, or teams who can take on big names. So Dodgers, I think, are a legitimate suitor for him. Rangers, if they're looking for a closer of his caliber, would certainly have to pony up, but could afford it. Trying to think who else would be an interesting spot for him. Yankees, obviously, but I think their preference would be a starting pitcher rather than elite closer type of player coming in. I've heard the Padres in connection with Mason Miller. I think that's less and less likely by the hour, though. Jays have a lot of pieces like Lou Perfito, Schneider, Jonathan Clase, who they could dangle for pitching. I think Lou Perfito is kind of a connector piece in a trade. I kind of agree with you there. You mean David Bednar? David Bednar is what you're talking about there, Anthony? Because I was kind of confused why you were saying Bedard. Had me thinking Connor Bedard for a little bit there. Phillies gave away bigger prospects than the Mets did today. Does that leave them in better position to land Robert right now? Mets have ready now guys like Acuna, etc. Honestly, I don't think Robert's going to cost a whole heck of a lot. As long as you're giving up a top 10 prospect, one of those guys, I think the deal could come to fruition either way. It's just a matter of the preference for what the White Sox are looking for. Do they like the prospect that the Mets are offering, or do they like what the Phillies are offering? I think they'll have very competitive offers either way. Elias, appreciate you joining us. Is Cease going to Houston? I do believe so. Mark, so if Texas goes, get Bird and Halverson, does that make them a serious contender? I mean, the American League is wide open. I think if they just add an arm, period, I think that stabilizes the bullpen. Do I think it makes them a serious contender in the American League? I think pretty much any team that gets into the dance on the AL side is going to have a chance. Andrew, you want Miller to the Phillies? Unlikely, but still possible. They still have a couple of prospects that could go. They did hold on to Painter, so maybe that would be the piece that would go. From the Pirates? You mean not the Orioles? Okay. We can do another trade there. Let me clear this one out. Ethan, Walcott was not sick today. He didn't play today. He was sick, according to Evan Grant, so I'm hoping he was actually, well, I'm not hoping he was actually sick. I'm hoping he wasn't held out for trade reasons, but if he is, selfishly, that'd be pretty cool because a top 4 prospect is not traded in the game very much at all. I think the last time we saw one was Gleyber Torres in the Aroldis Chapman deal, foolhardy deal that was made, but the Cubs were desperate. If they're trading a top 4 prospect in the game, with as rare as it is to trade a top 100 guy, let alone a top 5 guy, you should be getting a massive piece if he is traded. That's the only thing I'll say about that. Because I don't think he's going to get traded. But if he is, it's going to be a big, big, big deal. Is the Mets bullpen better than the Phillies right now? The New York media seems to love it. I think the Phillies are probably going to get a little bit better here. But if I had to pick one right now, I'd say I'd lean slightly Mets. Jay saving ammo for Cabrera and Bednar. Possibly. I would like to see Cabrera go there, but I'm not sure he starts a playoff game. With Toronto, I think he probably would start a playoff game. It'd be close, though. He'd probably start game 2, 3, or 4, if I had to guess. I'm going to go ahead and do the 3-team deal. Just kind of do them both at once for you there, Anthony. Rangers. What was the other one? Pirates and Marlins. There we go. There's your trade, Sarah. Boston is finalizing a deal to get Steven Matz. Deal is agreed to and pending medical review. Boston adding to their bullpen. With the question marks around Aroldis Chapman and his back, they help out their bullpen in the short term, obviously. Depending what the return is, could be a nice option. And with Aroldis being a lefty, gives them another left-handed option with Aroldis down. I think the Phillies need another bullpen piece and a bat. I think they're looking for a center fielder. I'd say they're looking for another bullpen piece as well because, you know, who knows what you're going to get in Robertson. He hasn't pitched all year. Bednar, Keller, Reynolds contract, and they pay for it. For Walcott, it's let's do a mock and see what it looks like. Ugly. Walcott is a 60 value. Reynolds is a negative 50 something, or close to it nowadays. Even if you paid down the deal, 38. They've upgraded him a little bit. So even if you include, you know, $80 million, which the Pirates aren't doing. So say you paid down 38 and just made an even flat deal, you're still not getting anywhere near Sebastian Walcott at 61. Bednar is right around 7 right now as far as value. Keller is what, 30 something as far as value? 29. I actually made a mock that has no chance of ever happening, but I was just throwing, stuff at the wall before I got on the air anyway. I'll show you the deal. It has no chance, but it's at least worth looking at. We had one discussion a few weeks ago about what team could actually put up a decent offer for Paul Skenes. And let's just say that the Dodgers were one of only a few teams that could put a legitimate offer on the table for him right now. That means the deal is unlikely because you want to have a market for him. You got 4 years of control. No way a deal's happening now. But I was just curious to see what it would look like. So basically, you get Skenes, you fill your hole at closer, and you add a right-handed bat and Tommy Pham. Your value 142.5. In return, you get Sebastian Walcott, you get Wyatt Langford, you get Malcolm Moore, and Dylan Dreiling. Is that worth Paul Skenes? I don't think so. But for a team that's desperate for offensive talent, you get 4 different pieces. A catcher that you've been looking for. Langford immediately goes into the lineup and becomes your star next to O'Neal Cruz. Langford is your star next year as well. That probably starts at shortstop next year for them. Dylan Dreiling is probably a year away. Moore is probably 2 years away. And you still got plenty of pitching coming. Now, would I do the deal if I'm Pittsburgh? I still lean no. If I were Pittsburgh, I'm holding out for a better offer. I'm waiting for a couple years on Skenes. I'd rather trade Keller. I'd rather trade a lot of other pieces before I trade Paul Skenes. Because I know I can't sign him long term. I know he's never going to sign an extension. But I can at least hold on for Paul Skenes to 2 more years and still get a package very similar to this then. I don't need to trade him now. What if the Rangers send down Caleb Bosley and then call up Craig Kimbrell? He doesn't have much left in the tank, honestly. He's been decent down there at AAA from what I've seen so far, but he's on his last legs of his career. Not saying he still can't get outs from time to time, but Bosley, I think, can still do a better job at the big league level because of the long relief aspect he has to him. Deal, what is it, chat? That was the one I was showing. They were saying they would do it if they were the Rangers. A lot of people commenting on the Steven Matz deal. Because the Astros got Ramon Urias, that tells me they're probably out on Korea. I agree. That's kind of what we were discussing earlier. I think they weren't going to be a serious suitor for Korea during the season anyway. I think that's a bigger deal after the season because you're going to have to get the Twins to take some money or figure a way to horseshoe the money elsewhere. Christopher, welcome in. What would the A's want from the Dodgers for Mason Miller? We can do that one. That's actually a pretty good offer. Pretty good idea there. I can't remember if we did this one last night or not, but we'll go ahead and do it again, if we did. A's and Dodgers. Remember, they're going big game hunting. I think they would have been the team that got both Kwon and Clase from the Guardians. I think that deal is obviously unlikely now, so they would need to get a closer elsewhere, so this would be their way to do that. Surplus, we're looking Miller at 30, so keep that in mind. So you're going to have to blow him out of the water. You're probably looking 35 to 37 return here for Mason Miller. Your value that you'd be sending out, they're going to want starting pitching. You got Sheehan that you could put at the top of this deal, unlikely to move in this deal, but I'd say Jackson Ferris becomes piece number 1. I'd say Gavin Stone has a decent chance to be the second piece in this deal, but I think they want one of these elite options offensively to round out that roster as well. So if they get the one piece in Ferris, they already have a shortstop in Jacob Wilson. I think they'd prefer an outfielder if I had to guess. So say they go, let's see, Quintero. Let's see what would happen if they threw Stone in there. How high a value is that? 42? I think that'd be a little too much. Is there anything else that would interest the Dodgers on this roster? And Duhar, no. Urshela, possibly. The flexibility he brings. Nobody else really fits here. I think that'd be just a little too high. So I think you'd get Quintero there. You go back over to the Dodgers side of things. You'd probably throw in... How much would Lindsey be? That's pretty close. Mason Miller for Ferris, Quintero, and... that's not the player I wanted. I wanted Lindsey, not Vargas. There we go. Do the Yankees deal Spencer Jones? Unless it's for a controllable starting pitcher, I think they hold on to him. Ian, would the Tigers target? Who should the Tigers target to cement themselves as a World Series contender? I worry about the bottom falling out of the playoffs like it did in the past 2 weeks. That's my worry as well. I don't think they've done anything to address my concerns as far as that goes. Um, I would say to kind of help them out, they would need to get Eugenio Suarez offensively to me to kind of bolster that roster. And to me, they need to add an elite closer or an elite setup guy. Alonso to the Yanks, that's not happening. Insurance is always nice. I like that one. How did they score those? Milner on in the 8th there. Come on. Load a little faster. There we go. Evan Carter single scored. Langford, Higashioka second. And then a bases loaded walk scored a run. Okay. A 4 spot, though. They're finally putting up some numbers, some offense there a little bit late, but better late than never. Heel, Spencer Jones should have been playing on an MLB roster when Judge went down, but instead, what sounds smart, let's get Austin Slater. Don't forget, the reason why Spencer Jones was not brought up was not because they didn't want to bring him up. He had back spasms himself. He was not able to come up. Health was the reason why they did not bring him up. Blaze Jordan is going to the Cardinals in that deal. I know one of you guys was in our chat the other day talking about Blaze Jordan. Well, there you go. Cardinals get him. Midnight Mike, welcome in. Appreciate you joining us. Where do I think Mason Miller goes? I hope not the Dodgers. I think there's a legitimate chance the Dodgers. Yankees, to me, make a lot of sense as well. You hope the Mariners get Suarez and Fairbanks. I think Suarez is a really good option for them. I think you're going to be right there. All right, Aaron. Trolling me a little bit here. Feel like Suarez will be a Cub. That's still my pick. Mariners, to me, though, are right there. I think they're almost a tie now to me. Base hit in the... Interesting. Is that another error? Rangers defense in these errors lately. It was you. You love Blaze Jordan. He's a kid. Good, but to great potential. Okay. Orioles trade for Sandy. That'd be an interesting one. Look at that line for Nathan Eovaldi. 7 innings, 6 hits, 1 run, 2 walks, 4 strikeouts. If he keeps putting up these numbers and is healthy the rest of the way, which, a big if, but say he takes the ball 8 more times the rest of the year, final 2 months he gets 4 starts a month, 1 a week. That'd even let him miss a start or 2. I'd say Eovaldi probably gets the Cy Young on the American League side. Sox got fleeced. Blaze for Mats. Blaze was a Bloom favorite when he was with Boston. Do a trade where Joe Adell goes to the Rangers. Adell's not moving. He finally, reached his ceiling anyway or is finally reaching some of that potential anyway with the Angels. They're finally tapping into it. They aren't trading him when they finally are starting to bear fruit on it. Now give it to next year, and then they'll see where they stand, and then maybe they'll revisit that idea, but I don't think there's any way that happens. Welcome in, Nando. Dodgers should have kept Eovaldi over Kershaw. You weren't giving up Kershaw, obviously. You think the Cubs will let go of a top 5 prospect for a starter in a rotation? I think they'll give up multiple top 5 prospects in their system to be able to bring in an ace to that staff. Not just a back-end starter, not just a number 3 or 4 starter, but an ace. Anthony, your thoughts on what this Hall of Fame voter goes rogue and not allowing Suzuki to be inducted to the Hall of Fame unanimously? It matters to some of the players, understandably, about their candidacy to the Hall of Fame. It's kind of ridiculous that we're not honoring these players the way they should with that instead of just the automatic vote instead of worrying about it. The only thing I would say that for the voter that didn't give him a vote, if your ballot was 10 long and you couldn't find a spot to fit in that 10th guy or the 11th guy that you wanted, and Ichiro's going to get in, I could understand doing your ballot that way. But that's because the arbitrary rules that Major League or the Hall of Fame puts on those, they limit them to 10. So, if they allowed them to vote for the players they think should be Hall of Famers, period, not because of some arbitrary number to limit the number of people that get in, small hall, big hall, whatever the case may be. But if they're an actual Hall of Famer, if they deserve to be in the Hall of Fame, they should get in. That might be a justifiable reason. But other than that, there's not really a case that you could make that makes sense. Sounds like the Padres really want Duran or Kwan. What would that trade look like? Well, they'd have to be willing to give up DeVries or Salas, and so far they've been unwilling to do so. With them being unwilling to do so, did we get a Suarez deal? Seattle gets Eugenio Suarez. Wow. Seattle gets it done. I'm impressed. I wonder what the return is going to be because the ask was said to be big. Remember the Yankees? They were so far apart on a deal, they went ahead and pivoted to Ryan McMahon. I'm thinking because they were asking for Spencer Jones in that deal. Looking at the Mariners' top prospects, I mean, my guess is they're probably giving up Harry Ford in this deal. What do you guys think the return is going to be here for Eugenio Suarez from the Mariners? I think this will finally start the market on bats, though. This was the bat that we've been waiting for to move. Now the rest of the rental bats can go. But what a nice return, or what a nice deadline the Mariners are having right now. Naylor solves a big need at first. Suarez at third. They have Ferguson in their bullpen. Can their pitching hold out the rest of the year? That's a question. Yeah, the long enough thing, I don't buy that argument at all. There goes the Rangers' playoff chances. I doubt it. I mean, there's still, 4 teams right around that same spot? Mariners are one of them. If Sandy was in Cy Young form, would you trade Walcott for him? I think anybody would trade Walcott for a Cy Young version of any pitcher. Sadness for your Tigers? Yeah. I think he would have been the piece that the Tigers really could have used. But he wasn't good in Seattle. That's true. That's why they offloaded that contract. It was a bad contract for bad contract swap. They had more years left on his deal, which is why they ended up making that deal. Mariners are very scary. Big move. It is. It is a big move. I want to see what the return is here. Let us know in the chat. What do you think the return is going to be for Suarez here? There's Blaze Jordan highlights. Huh. Tucker to the Yankees. All right, Aaron, you're trolling us pretty good there. I'm debating whether or not changing the title of this video to Breaking Eugenio Suarez Traded. I think I'll leave it alone for now. Top hitter on the market headed to the Mariners. Let's see what the tweet was. Was that Rosenthal? 2 or 3 top prospects, you think? Let's try to make a deal before we see what the return is. His value as of right now, this very second, is 9.3. They bumped it up even more. 9.3. What is Ford's value? 19? Maybe it is a little too high. Maybe they go with... I think Evans could be a nice option for them. And maybe Yorger Bautista? No. Ty Pete? Something like that. That could work. If you want to go a little bit, get a better piece entirely, you go Harry Ford. But they don't really need a catcher. You think Luke Raley is in this trade? I know they were talking about Canzone, which is kind of surprising. He's having a very nice year and would be a very good utility type player for them. Suarez hitting 240? Yeah, he's kind of a home run machine. That's what he does. You think 3 or 4 are going to go back? I don't know. What do you guys think the return is going to be for Suarez here? Cobra, welcome in. Prime Ozuna is better than Suarez? Well, yeah, but Prime Ozuna was there last year, not this year. He's injured, hip injury, remember? You think Harry Ford? Another error for Smith? Let me do it this way. Well, I guess we're happy they got the insurance runs, that's for sure. I think we're going to see some really big surprises tomorrow, early in the morning. Names that we aren't paying attention to. Now, I'm not saying they're going to be big names like, Aaron Judge or anything like that, but I'm saying we're going to see some out-of-nowhere trades that we were not expecting. What do the Rangers need to do now to compete with the Astros and Mariners now? Well, if the Astros add Dylan Cease, Mariners add Suarez, Naylor, Ferguson, the Rangers can't let that one go. They've got the best rotation in baseball this year. They have to add. They're good enough to add. The American League is wide open even with those teams making the additions. The Yankees with the additions they've made to their roster, yet they still haven't addressed their biggest need, starting pitching. Brendan Lee, according to the Jays, Springer will most likely come back after the day off tomorrow. Yimi Garcia to start throwing next week. O'Hearn to the Brewers, you think, for Logan Henderson? I think that would be the trade Brewers are going to make instead of Ozuna. If Ozuna doesn't go to Milwaukee, it's tough seeing him go anywhere besides Texas, perhaps. Maybe San Diego. Let's see. 3 prospects, 2 starting pitchers, and a first baseman. 2 starting pitchers. Who would it be? I'm going to guess Evans. 3-way trade? What? Oh, there it is. Dodgers getting in on that 3-way deal with the Rays and Reds. Ben Rotvelt is an interesting return. Oh! I think I know what this trade is leading towards from Jeff Passan. I think we're going to see a Dalton Rushing trade from the Los Angeles Dodgers for Stephen Kwan. I think Rotvelt is on the active roster right now. He could fill in, behind the Will Smith, their catcher. And then Dalton Rushing gets traded for Stephen Kwan. I think that's what the Dodgers being included in this trade is kind of facilitating. They get their backup catcher. I don't think they're carrying 3. Locklear and 2 pitching prospects. I kind of thought Locklear was the first base piece. Kramer is a part of the deal. Yeah, but as a backup catcher, maybe they just like something specifically. And remember, former brass there in, or excuse me, the current brass in LA is the former brass there in Tampa. I do think LA is up to something, though. Midnight Mike, you're right there with me. I hear you. I like that one, Heel. I can't say that one, but that one's pretty fun. Midnight trades rule. Well, it is midnight on the East Coast. Only 11 o'clock here Central Time, 9 o'clock on the West Coast. So West Coast teams are still going to be trying to get some deals done. We're going to be live here tonight till around midnight is usually when we'll start to see some deals kind of stop and drop off a little bit, maybe 12:30 Central Time. So we'll be live for another 30, 45 minutes. You think Seattle sends... Yay. That's an expensive trade. Phillies go big with another bullpen piece, please. No, I'm scared the Phillies don't add anyone else. Mason Miller would be a nice piece for them to kind of finish off that bullpen with. So they're getting Kramer in this deal. I'm not familiar with him off the top of my head. Willard, I do believe that you're going to end up getting the Dylan Cease. Yes, Jose, welcome in. It is getting crazy. Rangers need a first baseman, outfielder, and bullpen help. I think they need a right-handed bat at one of those two spots. I do think they need bullpen help, absolutely. I think the Dodgers are getting Miller. I think there's a good chance of it. I think that's kind of the replacement for Emmanuel Clase in that deal with the Guardians we made earlier this week. Dave said no more bullpen pieces. We'll see. Deadlines always change people's thinking. Cease trade will happen tomorrow. I think it'll be probably early in the morning. Where do the Cubs go now for a bat? Good question. Dave also said Rushing wouldn't be traded. We'll see. As far as where do the Cubs go, Fitzgerald was the starting catcher at AAA. Roosevelt will probably be going to OKC. Maybe. As kind of a depth piece. I kind of like that idea. I still think they're doing something big, and I think Rushing is going to be part of or could be part of it. They do have plenty of prospects, though. Could be any number of pieces. Vida. Could the Cubs still add another hitter for their offense? Yes, they could. Bob Nightingale, Jerry DiPoto, Mariners president of baseball ops, was just raving about Locklear's future last weekend at Cooperstown. Interesting. Drumming up the value of his own player. Having fun with me, Aaron, there? Padres and Dodgers fighting over Quan. The only way that happens, though, is if they're giving up a real prospect. They don't have the pieces that would even get close to working without DeVries or Salas. Conspiracy trades, Aaron? O'Hearn to the Cubs. I would probably lean O'Hearn if I had to guess. Melton as part of the return for Quan. Not a bad idea. But I mean, even if you did that, you'd still need another 30, and you don't have enough there either. See if they finally have listed the full trade details yet. Not yet. I'm still curious what we're going to see here. Oh, did we get another couple notifications here? I'm just glad Suarez is finally off the market. I mean, with Suarez off the market, now we can start talking about, bigger trades. We can start seeing a lot of the rental market start to move. A lot of that market will come off the board. If Kwan goes tonight, which I think is a possibility, I think we will see a Steven Kwan trade here to this evening. I think tomorrow morning becomes a very interesting conversation around Jose Ramirez. I think there's going to be a very interesting conversation about the future direction of the Atlanta Braves. Nobody's talking about that. I still can't believe that. A team that has very little pitching at all in the organization still is not getting any press for what they've struggled to do offensively the last 2 years with as much talent as they have and invested in that offense the last 2 years, and for it to come up dry the last 2 seasons. I mean, that's the type of thing that gets GMs fired usually. And they don't have pitching anymore. They went out there and got Chris Sale. They got lucky with the Cy Young season. They got one more year out of Chris Sale coming. Injured currently. You think it's Cedric Mullins trade tonight? I'd probably lean towards tomorrow. J-Ram will not get traded. I don't think he will either, but I think it should be a conversation that needs to happen. If all these players are leaving, gambling questions around the rest of the roster, what reason is he staying there for the next 3 years? He's on the most team-friendly deal in the business, and yet the team is selling here at the deadline and not looking to compete for a few years. Unless he just loves the city and wants to stay, which I do think is a legitimate thing, kind of like Mike Trout with the Angels. I think there's got to be a legitimate conversation around J-Ram, once Kwan does move. I don't think that conversation starts, though, until Kwan moves. You think the Astros could get Atlanta's Acuna? Acuna is injured right now. Guardians are dumb. They don't understand the simple concept of a full rebuild. They kind of retool around the edges every single year. I think with Kwan going, though, and Clase's suspended status and the likelihood of them trading Cade Smith, I think they'll be entering into a little bit of a retooling period here. Acuna's not moving, though. Michael, did you see the crazy stat someone posted from Miami this month? It is the lowest combined ERA for starters since Beckett, Willis, and Sanchez. That's pretty solid. Part of the reason why the Marlins have played well the past month. Austin, welcome in. First time, I think I just saw your message there for the first time. Who do you think the Cubs get? I do like the idea of Ryan O'Hearn. I still think they're going to go ace first. And then they'll try to backfill that backfill their lineup, if you will. Mark, Jays like dealing with Cleveland. I'd love to see Ramirez to Toronto. That would be a great deal as well. I mean, Toronto has a few prospects that I think would really interest the Guardians. Namala, Yasevich, a couple others. You're calling Langford? Philadelphia Feds said they would be mad if the Phillies didn't add win now players. True. You like getting Blaze Jordan? I would too. He's a nice piece. Doval's price is rising by the hour. Every closer's price is rising by the hour at this point. How about Sandy of the Cubs? Possible, but I think there's other teams that would pony up around the similar price that the Cubs would. I think they'll be looking a little bit bigger. A little bit better trade target here. Will Cashman get a pitcher and bullpen? I think he'll get both. They might not be as impactful as the Yankees fans are wanting, but I think they'll get both. And now Eugenio Suarez is the all-time leader for most home runs hit before a trade in season. Mark McGwire in 97 held the previous record. Still waiting for the full return there on Suarez. I think that'll have a big impact on what the rest of these rental guys are going to go for. Astros getting O'Hearn wouldn't surprise me. I don't see him as a fit there in Houston, though. Yandi Diaz a little bit better fit, honestly, because they've been interested in him longer. I think they're more looking for, now that they've got Urias there, I think they're more looking for second base, corner outfield. O'Hearn, I suppose, could fit that kind of description. But I think there's other targets they would prefer. What would Texas need to trade for to get Sandy? If CY said it is my guy, forget it. Not a lot. You're probably talking Dreiling as the offensive piece, and then maybe Fitzgerald to kind of round it out. Sandy the Orioles, since the value on Sandy is so low, they do need an ace, and if he can perform like an ace that he was a few years ago, that'd be a good option. The Phillies don't want to trade Painter, or Crawford, or Miller, or for Miller, so I don't think we make another big trade, and that worries me. I kind of agree with that assessment. I do think that if they really want to win, with this probably being the final run of this team as currently constructed, I think they're going to have to add another big piece. Miller's very cost controlled as well, so even if they did add a Mason Miller, they could afford to re-sign these guys in the offseason by adding a big piece like Mason Miller. They have a nice rotation. Nola really hasn't worked out this year, but hopefully he bounces back at some point. That's a lot of money sunk into him. It's going to have to work out one way or the other. I'd say the Phillies, though, probably need to address middle relief, kind of that 7th to 8th inning bridge to get it to your closer in Duran. And then I think they'd need to go after a center fielder like Robert Jr. Aaron, to kind of answer your question there, I would guess probably Philadelphia or the Mets. Sean, how about Willie Castro for the Cubs or Nolan Arenado, and do you think Owen Casey gets traded? I think their preference is to hold on to him as insurance if Kyle Tucker leaves in the offseason. I think their preference is to trade Alcantara, but they're only going to trade one of those two outfield prospects. If they get a real offer on the table for an ace, I think Casey will be part of the return. If they don't get an ace or a legitimate starting pitcher, long-term, controllable contract type of pitcher, then I think Casey ultimately stays. But as far as Castro, I've heard a lot of rumors about him to the Houston Astros to kind of fill that utility role, kind of like Ramon Urias just went there for. I don't think they're necessarily done there in Houston adding a bat, which means I think Castro still would be a nice fit for them. When facing Seattle, you got to face Cal Raleigh, Eugenio Suarez in the lineup. True. High home run guys, low average guys, so just make sure you hit your spots. Otherwise, they're going to punish those mistakes, that's for sure. Power sluggers really do play up in the postseason. Guys who hit for a high average during the season usually play down a little bit. So, they're trying to get somebody who's going to help them out in the postseason more than anything else, which I think is a good strategy to go for. And they have a really good roster around them. They're just going to have to kind of finish this thing out a little bit, in my opinion. Bowden makes it sound like you already got a 30 to 40 surplus on Sandy. He's okay. He's starting to rebound a little bit, but he's a long way from being the Sandy Alcantara of his Cy Young years. Mason Miller didn't come out for the save. Uh-oh. I'm telling you, they were showcasing him. Do we get a Mason Miller trade here shortly? Rangers win 6-3. Mariners get Eugenio Suarez. Tomorrow is the deadline. What are you saying there, Evan? The rest of your tweet cut off before I could read it. The next 4 games, Texas and Seattle over the weekend. It's going to be fun. They'll get to face heads up against Eugenio Suarez. Gilbert dropped as a prospect with the Mets. Guys like Jet Williams and Binge blew him by. I still like Gilbert as a piece, though. I still think that the San Francisco Giants did a really nice job in that deal. You think Mullins to the Phillies? I don't hate it, but I love Robert Jr. a lot more. Mullins, to me, if you're counting on him to be your everyday center fielder, he's a little bit of a liability because of his arm defensively. We'll see. Chris Young has to do something or sell whatever he can to include. They don't need to go that extreme there. Kittredge to the Cubs, another trade. You were asking the next trade for the Orioles. We got Ramon Urias. Now the Cubs add to their bullpen, adding Kittredge from the Orioles. Another deal. Bednar and O'Neill Cruz going to the Jays. Doubtful on O'Neill Cruz. I think that deal probably would have happened by now. Bednar, I think, would be a nice option for them, though. The report I'm saying is that the Diamondbacks are getting Locklear, Ford, Arroyo, and Sloan. That's a huge deal. Thought it was 3 prospects they were getting, though, not 4. Still waiting on the full return for Eugenio Suarez. We just got another deal with Kittredge going to the Cubs. We'll see what the return is there. Got to be something small. He's got a year left of control, if I remember correctly. An option, anyway. 5 games over at the trade deadline day is just awesome a month ago. It's always good. I really like the way, I forget who was talking about it on the leadoff spot on MLB Network, anyway. But it's always better to go into the trade deadline winning a game. And, that's, to me, that's really important to kind of show your team, to show your front office that, hey, give us a piece, believe in us, to get you going into the trade deadline, to get yourself that little extra, hey, if we just get this extra piece, it'll mean all that much more. So we'll see which teams ultimately decide to add here. I think there'll be a few teams that will be surprised, end up standing pat, that we aren't paying attention to yet. But a lot of teams have already done some shopping so far, so we'll see. Phillies have Crawford and minors. They do. Got about 80 of you guys with us. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe. We'll be live tomorrow morning, 8 a.m., all the way through the deadline, so be sure to keep up to date with all the latest from the MLB trade deadline here at The Upside. We'll be live with you guys for another 45 minutes to an hour as well. I'm expecting a flurry of activity as the games that are on the West Coast go final and we get some actual deals now that the games are coming to a close. You honestly don't want Suarez. He's a good closer. You honestly don't want to trade Suarez. He's a good closer. Yeah, but I think the Padres are looking to kind of buy and sell here at the deadline. That'd be one way to kind of recoup some nice prospects here. And they have several good bullpen options already. Guys who have been closers in the past. Jason Adam probably takes the role right now. Morahone probably pitch for pitch, one of the best relievers in the entire game right now. Their bullpen does have a lot of good options to go to besides Suarez. Let's see here. My apologies if I missed your tweet. We got our message anyway. We got a lot of messages coming in this evening. Miller to the Padres. I don't think it's out of the question. They're actually looking at him. They're looking at Kwan. The Astros are reportedly in on Dylan Cease as well. Dodgers have serious discussions with the Guardians on acquiring Steven Kwan. However, they have also discussed deals that would include Shane Bieber in a Kwan deal. That was released earlier today. Some people are... The midnight trade deadline just got insane. True. I mean, trade deadline day is here. It is officially upon us. No need to wait any longer. Can the Cubs win without trading for an outfielder? I do think they could probably win. It's going to rely quite a bit. It's going to rely quite a bit on their pieces, their long-term assets actually living up to the stats on the back of their baseball card. If they do that, I think they've got a real chance. Dodgers talking to guards about Kwan and Bieber plus. Yes, they've been talking about that one pretty much all day. D-backs get Locklear, Cranton, and Burgos. That's it? Locklear's value must have skyrocketed or something. Wow. That's it? What? That's all Eugenio Suarez went for. I mean, great job by Jerry DiPoto, first and foremost. I get you're giving up a well-regarded prospect in Tyler Locklear. Your chance to win is right now, and you didn't give up any of your top pieces. That's incredible. I mean, it is a rental. You shouldn't be giving up those pieces anyway. But you didn't even give up one of your starting pitchers who's actually had some success at the big league level already in Evans. Holy smokes. Hats off to Dipoto on selling Locklear as a centerpiece in that deal. Yeah, Cubs couldn't beat that offer? Are you kidding? They must really believe in Tyler Locklear. Like, if he doesn't become at least a major league regular, that trade is a complete missed opportunity for the Diamondbacks. Andrew, do you think Griffin Jax gets moved by the Twins? I do. I think that's part of the reason why they moved Duran today, is so they could focus on trading Jax tomorrow. D-backs fleeced? I guess the Orioles are trading the whole team now. Pretty much anything that's not nailed down as far as 1 or 2 year guys. But we'll see. Can you check on the value of that trade? I can. I can tell you right now, it's very lopsided. All right, so Locklear. $2.1. Now, granted, even if you bumped his value up to say 4, okay, keep that in mind. Second piece was what? Canton? My C is still not working on this dang keyboard. Was that the second piece in there? Cranton. Not Canton. Cranton. 1.6. And then the last one here was Burgos. $1.8. Okay, so even if you improve Locklear's value to say 4, still gets you to 7. If your price was sky high on Suarez and this is what you settle with, even if you believe in Locklear, you're still not getting enough here. No one would expect the Mariners to give up those pitchers, honestly. Well, I mean, if you're looking to get Suarez, that was supposedly the sky-high asking price. And then they end up settling for this. Tells me a lot of teams were cooling on his bat because of any number of reasons. Buxton is hurt. He's not going to be traded. He's got a no trade, and he says he doesn't want to move. Do you think the Cubs get another bat before the deadline? I do. Giants should be all over Rutschman. I think there's an outside chance that the discussion around Adley Rutschman will pick up in the offseason. I think it's unlikely to happen right now. The Cubs start to, in case you're wondering about that, Bennett, Ken Rosenthal was actually speculating about Adley Rutschman and the trade possibilities there 3-4 weeks ago. So it's not completely out of left field as far as Adley Rutschman. The offensive numbers are down over the last year and a half anyway. They've certainly started to pick up over the last 30 games or so, though, looking a lot more like his former self. Now that he's just returned from injury, could be an interesting piece if they decided to move him. D-backs got fleeced. I guess there wasn't much competition for him as we thought. I think there's plenty of competition. I just think they identified a player kind of like how the Mavericks identified Anthony Davis as the player they wanted for Luka Doncic and said, hey, this is the deal we want to make. I think we're seeing the same thing here, kind of the baseball equivalent for Eugenio Suarez, with Tyler Locklear being the centerpiece here. Duran 1-for-1 for this trade. I think that's honestly a pretty close valuation based on this one. But honestly, Duran is still a nice piece for somebody to have as long as they're willing to utilize him and not let him sit and rot on the bench like the Rangers did. I think if you give up a decent high A pitcher or a decent A-ball pitcher, you'd probably get Ozuna. Dipoto about to get a contract extension on the spot. I think he just signed one, if I remember correctly. What are your thoughts on your last comment, Anthony? Let me scroll up here. Michael, should I be worried that my Marlins winning the last 4 series going into the deadline that might become buyers and sellers at the deadline? They're still purely sellers. Why does it say Locklear is third base? He's a first base. I don't know why it changed to third base on here. Let's check out X and see if anything else is popping right now. Win number 100 of his career for Nathan Eovaldi today. Waiting for the return on for Andrew Kittredge to the Cubs from the Orioles. I mean, Suarez is a hit or a complete miss. He doesn't hit for any average, and he makes a ton of errors. He's not exactly the greatest defender since sliced bread. He's kind of a negative asset on the defensive side of things. However, he's played in Seattle before. He's comfortable with the city. Makes it a lot easier to adapt. All those kind of things. His average, I want to say, is around what, 230. Major League Baseball average right now for a Major League hitter is around 240. So not as far below as you might think. Rangers get Bednar, you think? I'm kind of hoping for that one. Bader is still out there. There's a lot of interest in Harrison Bader anyway from the Twins. The Mets, the Phillies, the Yankees, the Dodgers, the Padres, the Rangers, the Blue Jays, the Cubs, all have checked in on Harrison Bader, and I'm pretty sure I'm missing a few teams as well. Vida, drop a like, much deserved. Thank you, my man. Appreciate you with the endorsement. Andrew, if the Phillies don't get Robert, where do you think they go? Mullins probably the most likely. I wouldn't like it, but I think that's probably the most likely. Dots Game Room, Mets get another outfielder. I think Robert is probably the most likely for one of those two teams. Miller wasn't pitching tonight. That's true. And just kind of show the scores. Let me see if that game is actually over yet. It did go final. They did score 1 in the 9th, but they went with Perkins and not Miller. This is the game right down here they're referencing here. Box score. You go to the 9th, you're up 2. And instead, Springs gives you 6, Sterner gives you 1, and you go Perkins for 2 innings. I don't know. Who did they end up facing in that 9th inning, though? Maybe it was because of the lineup. They just didn't want to use his arm. Raleigh, Rosarena? No. They weren't trying to save his arm. They just didn't want him to look worse because of, if he gave up a home run against Cal Raleigh, it would depress his value. Can you say shopping a player? The A's will be trading Mason Miller. I am about 95% certain Mason Miller will be on the move before the trade deadline tomorrow. I was about 90% certain yesterday after the way they've been utilizing him the last week or so, bringing him on for one batter with 2 outs in the 8th inning when they're losing by 4 just to lower his ERA by under 4 with that 1 at bat. I mean, come on. Mason Miller is going to go somewhere. Rangers Mariners, same record at the deadline day. CY about to trade Walcott. I mean, there are some interesting Walcott type of trades that they could make, but that's such a high level deal that it's going to require, I think, even more than just Sebastian, or it's going to require more than just one piece coming back. Bader plus Jax to the Jays would definitely be a Jays type of trade. True. I still think starter has got to be their priority, though. If Miller does get dealt, I know it's going to be to the dang Dodgers. Yeah, I do think the Dodgers are probably the likely team there. Montero to the Tigers from the Braves. Yes. Honestly, I don't like the move, though. I think they need to go a little bit bigger game hunting if you're looking for bullpen additions like a Bednar. Maybe they're still in there for him. Who knows? Now, if the game's pretty much final for the evening, we should be able to get the rest of these deals in the next 30 minutes or so. And then tomorrow morning we'll be live at 8 o'clock in the morning Central Time. We will be live, so be sure to tune in here on YouTube. Follow us on X at Upside Ascend and on Facebook Upside Sports Network. Miller to the Padres, that was another option. And there was some rumors about Miller being stretched out as a starter somewhere if he did get traded. Does Arenado get traded? I think with the Astros bringing in Ramon Urias, there's very few teams that make sense for him. If I had to pick a team right now, I'd say Detroit, after they miss out on Eugenio Suarez, might try to bring in Arenado as a medium-term third baseman. Miller to the Rangers is not far-fetched. I wouldn't say it's far-fetched, but I do think it's unlikely. Let me see, we got about 80 of you guys in here, but only 33 likes. Come on, guys, let's bump up those likes. Really do appreciate the chat and everything, but see if we can bump up those likes, my guy. It's the trade deadline. It happens once a year. If you're enjoying the content, hit that like button. That was Toronto that he was talking about stretching him. Yeah. Alfonso, welcome in. Been a minute since I've seen you in our chat. Appreciate you joining us once again. Do it 24/7. I already pulled an open to close today at work and an open to close the day before. I need at least a couple of hours before we go into the trade deadline tomorrow. I might even start early if I wake up early. But 8 o'clock for sure I will be up, and we will be live right here. Welcome in, Melvin. Welcome back. Likes are deserved. He's been on for hours. Come on. Thank you, Vita. Appreciate that. Mark, you think Texas can trade Moore and Rosario and get you Miller? Probably not, because Rosario, to me, I think has bounced outside of the top 100. I think they're looking for a top 100 talent. While Rosario is there as a talent, the injury takes him out, so you'd have to add a little bit more. Been a year? Has it been that long? Wow. I thought you'd been in my chat sooner than that. I just remember the name. Miller to Mets would make the Phillies go nuts if that happens. Honestly, they have the horses that the A's would really love for Mason Miller. And he would give them insurance if they indeed lose Edwin Diaz in free agency, which unlikely, but possible. You'll be in my headphones all day tomorrow. Thank you, my guy. Love hearing that. I know you guys that are watching right now may have to work all day tomorrow. You may not be able to catch the network tomorrow and follow along there. They can only really report on kind of the top line rumors, and they'll talk a lot about how a certain team is doing. The Dodgers are playing over the last 10 games or whatever. How a team is leading into the All-Star break. I'll keep up with all these different rumors as they happen. So the one thing I wish the network would really do is utilize their reporters a whole lot more than they do, like they did when the network first started. Instead, they got a lot of players giving a lot of perspective on the game, which is nice. But I still want to get the news. That's why it's MLB Network. I want to get the news as what's happening in the game. Give me all that analysis all day long after the trade deadline. I want to get the news as it happens. I don't need to wait and get it filtered first. Wait 20 minutes before I finally see it on the air. You'll get it live right here at the Upside tomorrow. So be sure to join us tomorrow all day long during the trade deadline. Yusevich and Stefan, pretty decent return for Miller maybe. I think they'd want a little bit more, but I think it's a good starting place, yes. Just liked and subscribed. Thank you, Christopher. Appreciate you. Stephen, what bat do you think the Cubs get? I still think O'Hearn is probably the most likely now that Suarez is off the board. If I had to pick a different one, Arenado is not going there. A player like Urias could go there. Maybe Andujar from the A's could possibly fit. Gio Urshela would be a nice piece, I would say. John Heyman, what do you got for me, John? Padres are working on a possible Mason Miller trade. Not done yet, but they are talking. Interesting. Dang, Nathan Eovaldi, 5-0 in July, .59 ERA, .95 WHIP, 198 opponent average, 8 walks to 30 strikeouts over 5 starts. He's been pretty good. Mason Miller to the Padres, huh? This is going to be an interesting one. I imagine it's probably going to end up being a 3-teamer, rerouting Cease somewhere else. Let's see if we can come up with the trade before it actually happens. We might get a Mason Miller trade. I told you guys this trade was going to happen. They don't have the financial assets. Well, Miller is basically a free player. He's making league minimum. So if they offload Dylan Cease, that saves them roughly $10 million, which is basically what the finance guys have been looking for them to save all year long. So the finance guys ultimately get their way and they trade Dylan Cease, but they get a controllable asset back. So let's start with the basics here. Miller, goes to the Padres. They're looking for a controllable outfielder, though. Padres, you're going to have to include probably DeVries or Salas at some point in one of these deals. Cease, let's say the Astros are the team here. Astros are rumored to say Melton, perhaps, to the A's. Padres send Cease to the Stros. Now, you're still nowhere close if you're the Padres. You still need to give up more. What else could they give up? Morahone, possibly, but he's making next to nothing right now. Suarez, perhaps. Maybe that helps the bullpen. Of course, you're taking... The bullpen right now is strong for the Padres. Maybe they're envisioning him as a starter. Or if you go to, say, the Red Sox, maybe you go for Duran, perhaps. Cleveland doesn't make sense because then you're trading Cease into Cleveland. That doesn't make sense. Jays as a third team would be interesting. I still think they've been in there for Cease for a while. Cubs would be an interesting third team. Trade possible but not finalized according to John Heyman. I think Quan probably ends up on the Dodgers. If I had to pick a team right now, Midnight Mike, I would say Quan goes probably tonight to the Dodgers. My guess is that one happens in the next 20, 30 minutes. You wanted Miller? Well, Miller's pretty dang good. The question was, could he stop punching cinder blocks and breaking his hand, punching walls? Kind of like what we saw with Devin Williams early in his career. Cease and Suarez to the Jays. That would be a nice stack. If the Padres deal Cease for Miller in a 3-team trade, they're geniuses. Well, they're going to have to give up more than that, though. You think Bednar or Jax to the Dodgers? I think Jax is the one I'd think the Dodgers would probably go for if Miller ends up going elsewhere. I think Bednar is probably going to end up with the Rangers, Tigers. One of those two teams, if I had to guess right now. None of the Rockies relievers have moved yet. I think those will go tomorrow as well. Miller going to get shelled by the Dodgers. Well, I mean, I'm not sure I would stretch out Miller as a starter. I know he's really good in the bullpen. You hope that he has the stuff and longevity to be able to make it as a starter. If you can turn any reliever into a starter, obviously they're more valuable, but the increased risk to injury is also something you have to consider. The wear and tear on the arm is something you have to consider. And with as dominant as Miller is in that bullpen, if you think he has another inning in him, how about you try getting him for 2 innings at a time out of the bullpen to close down a game first? If he can handle that, then maybe he can handle even more workload on his shoulders. If not, and he can't handle the 2 innings, or if 2 innings seem like it's already at his limit, then obviously you don't start it, or then you don't try to make him a starter. But it looks like Mason Miller likely will be traded this evening or in the early hours tomorrow morning. We'll be live with you guys for another 30 minutes or so be sure to hit that like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. We're up to 41 likes. We're getting there. About half of our audience. Let's see if we can get the other half to hit that like button. Be sure to join us tomorrow, as all day long we'll have live coverage from the MLB trade deadline. 3 All-Stars already in that bullpen right now for the Padres, looking to add one more. Still gagging on the Soroka deal. I mean, what the heck? I get it. I like Soroka, but not for that return. I like Soroka before the year, let me clarify. Hope this isn't another Scherzer to the Padres. Yikes. Think Texas would be all in for 26. 25 is about to end. Chris Young, CY anyway for the Rangers basically said in several interviews that if this is Bochy's final run, his contract is up at the end of the year. He wants to do right by him, and even if he's not necessarily in a buy situation, he still might go out there and buy just because Bochy is his manager. Well, guess what? They're right there on the cusp of the wild card. They have the best rotation in all of baseball. You have DeGrom and Eovaldi as your starters. I mean, it's time to add. Now is the time. So all in. I don't think they're necessarily going to be all in at any point. I think they've got the prospects coming for a while now that they don't necessarily need to give up the entire farm to solve one or two spots on this roster. I think their roster on the big league side is a player or two away from being a complete unit. So the bullpen, I think, is one elite closer away. Maybe a high leverage guy as far as a guy who can throw 100 to be another nice piece for them. On the offensive side, backup catcher for Jonah Heim eventually is a thought there. First base is a little bit of an issue, and then DH. Other than that, just getting Langford to play up to his potential, continuing to keep the rest of the roster healthy has got to be something there, and then just keeping the positivity or the positive offensive strides Josh Young has made as of late as well. You were talking last night about a trade that would point back to years later. Miller is that guy. True. We were talking last night about we look at the trade deadlines of years past. The year that the Braves won the World Series, we look at the trade deadline and look at the entire outfield redo that they did with Soler, Peterson, etc. We look at the Cliff Lee trade as the deadline deal that one year. We look at the who was the deadline deal the other year. There's every now and again there's a couple of deals that define a deadline that kind of take a team from wild card contending or trying to win the division to World Series favorite, an over-the-top favorite. The Cole Hamels trade year, one of those times. We saw the Scherzer-Turner deal one year, the Manny Machado deal another year. Maybe Mason Miller is that guy this year. Do you think the Phillies lose out on an outfielder if it's the case that can the Phillies win the World Series? So say they don't add an outfielder. Do I think they still can win the series? I do. The team is really good, but it's going to be incumbent upon Schwarber, Turner, Harper, Real Muto, Wheeler, Suarez, all carrying him there. Suarez for Miller straight up, you think? No, I don't think so. Padres need a left field bat, and that's it. Padres need to get some health primarily. Their bullpen's pretty solid, and if they're trading Dylan Cease, they're going to need some starting pitching. Left field is still something they're looking for long term, though. Let me update the page and see if anything else is going on at the moment. Still can't believe Eugenio Suarez was traded for so little. I mean, good Lord. Cease, Cronenworth to the Astros for Melton, Colton Gordon, Luis Baez. A's get Melton, Baez, and Salas. Padres get Miller and Spears. Or Sears, you mean. Let me see if that would make any sense. Go trade Suarez to the Jays, then offer them a bat, then another elite bullpen arm. Okay. But the value still isn't quite there. Padres, A's, and your team was the Astros. So you're saying the Astros would send Baez, to the A's, along with Melton and Salas. Again, that's still incumbent upon them willing to move Salas. So far, they've been saying no, no, no. So Salas would go to the Athletics. You're saying Sears also goes. He goes to the Padres. Okay, and then you're saying Cronenworth also goes out of this deal? To the Stros. Master Vinman, thank you for that. Really do appreciate it, my friend. Very generous of you as always. Been a minute since I've seen you in here. Thanks for all your insight and hard work. Looking forward to tomorrow's webcast. You are the best. Thank you, my friend. Always appreciate your support. Thank you very much. Did I get that trade right? Colton Gordon from the Stros. Am I missing Gordon here? And you're sending him to the A's as well. Negative 0.8. So you're still a little bit light here for the A's return on Mason Miller. Or no. You're good there. Okay, never mind. Padres, you're getting Miller and Sears. How long of control does Sears have on him? 3 years. That's helpful. Astros, you get Dylan Cease this year, who they're really going after. Cronenworth to help you at second. A lot of questions there as far as how the roster works with Cronenworth, Altuve, Matthews, etc. Baez from the Stros goes to the A's as well. Okay. Astros are getting a huge haul in this deal, though. And all they're giving up is, what, Baez, Gordon, and Melton? Wait, I'm reading their arrows wrong. Huh. They're giving up Cronenworth, Cease from the Padres, and Salas. Huh. Bringing in 42. So they're getting a little bit of an advantage from Cease. They're getting a little bit of advantage from, or a lot of an advantage from Miller. And the Astros are taking the least back in this deal. So the Astros are giving up Melton, Gordon, Baez for Cease and Cronenworth. It's not horrible, but the value isn't right. Thank you, Andrew. Appreciate that. Try to catch up on a few of these comments. So you guys can't wait for until Musgrove and King return to our pitching. Yeah, you need health. That's what you really need out there in San Diego. Thank you, Mark. See you tomorrow. We will be live again tomorrow at 8 o'clock. We'll be hanging around for another 30 minutes or so tonight. Let's see if these deals are coming to fruition here before we get too caught up in anything else. The Astros are now engaged in trade discussions with Miami Marlins for ace Yandi Alcantra after talks. Astros talks for Dylan Cease have cooled down. Interesting. Wow. Out of those two pitchers, I'd rather have Dylan Cease. Let's be clear. Alcantara, who's pitched well over his last 2 starts, would still be an upgrade for them. It shouldn't cost him a whole heck of a lot. No, I took off of work tomorrow. I'll be live all day long, Vida. Martin Perez coming back. Yeah. Jays make the most sense. They have the bat the Padres want. Young, almost ready starting pitching. Call, Steven, Bloss, etc. For Cease, I wonder with the Astros talks cooling down if they would become a team that would be a good fit for Dylan Cease there. Cease in the A's trade, yeah. I think that would be the kind of the framework of a 3-team deal. If I took out the Astros and I put, say, the Blue Jays in this, what would the Blue Jays have to do to make this worth it? I think Yasevich would have to be part of the return going to the A's. His value's actually gone up as well a little bit here. You don't need Cronenworth in this deal for them. That deal's actually pretty close right there. You get Salas, Yasevich. That's not bad. And if the Padres send Suarez in this deal as well, I think your 4.4 value there. I think the Blue Jays would still have to give up just a hair more, but not Stefan or Steven. Say you put Johnny King in this deal, give the A's another top prospect, pitching prospect. Would you do that if you're the Blue Jays? I think the value isn't quite right, but kind of that being the framework. That's a Mason Miller deal, along with a controllable starting pitcher to the Padres. They don't even have to convert Mason Miller if they don't want to, which I wouldn't. And the Padres get a bat from the Jays. A bat, Major League bat, expiring perhaps. Not really. Varsho. That would work. Maybe instead of King, you do a lower cost piece here. Maybe do a Bloss. That might work. What about Gage? Let's do Gage instead, though. I kind of like that deal. I still think the Jays are getting screwed in this one just a little bit, though. I think the A's do really well. I think the Padres are close, but not quite. I'm just thinking of a left fielder that could go to San Diego out of the Blue Jays. He's only got a year left on his deal after this season. But I think if this is your starting point for a deal, you'd be really close. Miller, Sears, Salas, Yusevich, Cease, and Suarez. Then if you're the Blue Jays, you're only giving up Yusevich. If you don't want to give up Yusevich, you do Stefan to the A's along with King. That's a little closer. That are overperforming? Well, the rest of the market's going to know they're overperforming as well. Let's check out X just to make sure we're not missing any new headlines. Maybe the Blue Jays have moved on. Who knows? Nope, looks like we're quietening down on some of the rumors now. We'll be live for another 15 or so minutes. Just want to make sure we're not going to miss any big ones tonight. I remember last year, the second I got off, I had to do 2 videos because there were a couple of big trades that happened right after I got off. I think we were live until like 2:30 in the morning. That was kind of a crazy deadline. Or deadline eve. Did not get much rest that night. Make these moves and wakes up and you think it's might about another bullpen piece over a bat. Mark, I'm just tuning in, but it looks like Mariners got Suarez. Yes, they did. Honestly, they fleeced the Diamondbacks for him. Basically gave up Tyler Locklear, sold everybody on his value over the Hall of Fame weekend, and were able to get him as the headliner in that deal. Diamondbacks are obviously looking for a much bigger return for Eugenio Suarez, but ultimately didn't get it. They didn't cave, so the rental price has now been set. And now we're starting to see some bats begin to move here a little bit. A lot of rumors as far as bullpen, of course. There will be a ton of teams that make trades tomorrow. A ton of middle relievers that get moved. Mark Kotze, manager for the A's, says Mason Miller, unavailable tonight. Not injured. Not injured. Obviously, trade is coming. David Schneider has been in the rumor mill, plays both field positions, has some power, and can run a little bit. Can definitely be a piece for the Padres. A piece, but I don't think they're necessarily looking. I like him, but I think they're looking a little bit more on the A's would be looking for more of the pitcher side, and I think that's where the primary piece is going to have to come from, not from a position player going to the Padres. Remember, you're fulfilling the need for the Padres to fill for Mason Miller. Do you think Harper yells at Dave like, yeah. I'll put it this way. Dave Dombrowski's pretty much done a really good job already with Duran coming in and outbidding the Red Sox for Robertson. I still think they'll try to add a center fielder, and I think they will get it done. Dombrowski always gets those kinds of things done. Someone's phone must have been busy right now because we're hearing rumors left and right. True. That's why I keep refreshing this page just in case. You don't need Miller, though. True, but it sounds like you're thinking about it for the bullpen or as a starter long term. I get your argument there, Brandon, that you don't want to give up Yusevich, that you'd rather give up a higher value, controllable outfielder piece rather than Yusevich. I would rather hold on to Yusevich too, but I think that's what's part of the reason why the A's make the move is because of the starting pitcher. Solis is a nice piece and a nice prospect, but they already have Langoliers. So they would need a pitcher to go with it. I think Stefan will be a 10-plus value next year, guarantee it. Well, he's already right at about 10 right now. Gives them a young pitcher that's still developing, a pitcher that can slot into the rotation right now. True. But I think they're looking for more upside going into Vegas. Big slash for the Cubs was more of a drip. Well, I think they're still going for a little bit more here. I still think they haven't gotten their ace. Don't sleep on Dylan Cease going there. I still think there's a good chance he ends up there. He's still my prediction for them as the ace that goes there. Mackenzie Gore from the Nationals as well. But with the addition of Soroka, I just wonder if Mackenzie Gore ultimately will get traded at all. There are several teams that were supposedly kicking the tires on his services, though, after the Cubs were one of the first teams to reach out and really get traction going on his market. What do you think about a salary cap in baseball? Honestly, I don't really like the idea. Everybody argues for a salary floor, and to some degree I agree that there should be some type of mechanism to not reward teams for not spending, to not reward teams for continuing to lose and lose and lose and lose and not spend even when they're losing, to kind of get out of it. There's got to be a way to kind of handle that end of it. Now, the luxury tax stuff, I think the penalties and so forth, I think could be worse. Kind of like how basketball uses the first and second apron. I think that would be much better than, say, a salary cap. Just allow the aprons to keep going and just limit the number of draft picks that you get. Limit the number of international signing pool money that you get. That will really kind of take the penalties that are there now and put them into like overdrive. And I think that would really have an impact like a salary cap without stopping an owner who really wants to go out there and spend, like a Steve Cohen, from doing so if he really wants to. It'd also generate a lot of money for the other teams in the league to allow them to go out there and spend more money the following year if that team did go above that because of those aprons. So no salary cap for me. I don't think that'll ever happen anyway. I think the Players Association is adamant about that not happening. And I do think the ownership would like to, if they are required to hold or lock out the players in a way because they couldn't get a deal done with this collective bargaining because they want that salary cap, then ultimately I think that's an option that could be had. That we miss a season of baseball, but I'm hoping against it. Sandy A will be an Astro tomorrow, in your opinion? I think it's a very possible option there. If you're the Cubs, you want to save money because, remember, Kyle Tucker about to have a huge bag. I'm not sure they retain Kyle Tucker. I think they've got two outfielders they really like in Alcantara and Casey. I think Casey's already been groomed to be that replacement for Kyle Tucker, which makes the trade that they made to the Astros look all the more foolhardy, but they were all in before the season. They get the extension done for Hoyer before the trade deadline. I think that's going to cool the Jets a little bit there in Chicago, but we shall see. I wonder if the A's are attaching Luis Severino to any Miller talks to get off his dead contract. it ain't that dead. He's still a decent pitcher. The numbers for any A's pitcher are going to be elevated in Sacramento right now, and so kind of take those numbers with a grain of salt. Miller doesn't really play at home that often, so and he's only pitching 1 inning. So I think he's a much better pitcher, obviously, than Severino. Anyway, but that's beside the point. Rangers and A's have traded with each other before. Could Rangers get Miller? It's not out of the question. They do have interest in him. They tried to bring him in 2 years ago. I think it was 2 years ago in his rookie season. They tried to bring him in last year as well before injury befell him. All right, looks like we've kind of reached the end of the night anyway for rumors. Hopefully they'll stick around a little bit more, though. I'm hoping we get some traction here. It's only been 7 minutes or so since we really got the Alcantara stuff. All the games are now final. All right, Rangers get back on the winning side of things, beating the Angels. Blue Jays 9-8 over the Orioles. D-backs continue to struggle as the deadline has really impacted that roster. 7-2, Tigers win that one. Twins, same thing as the D-backs, look listless, 13-1. Astros back in the win column again, 9-1 winner over the Nationals. Braves can't win, or Royals can't score in regulation, so Royals take it in the 10th. Phillies lose against the White Sox on the road again, yikes. Cubs 10, Brewers 3. Nice for them to get their offense back in the act. Giants lose again, 2-1. Pirates take it on the road. Mets shut out against the Padres. Guardians shut out the Rockies. Yankees take it in 11 versus the Rays. Dodgers lose after their bullpen fails them late in the game there. 5-2, Reds win. Marlins 2-0 over the Cardinals. And then the Mariners losing the nightcap tonight against the A's 5-4. Let me update these standings as we head into the trade deadline tomorrow. Tigers, Blue Jays, Astros on top. Then your wild card picture looks like Yankees, Red Sox, Mariners, and Rangers tied for that final wild card spot. It's going to be a very interesting race. Rangers 7-3 in their last 10. Mariners 4-6, but the Mariners did just add Josh Naylor, Caleb Ferguson, and their big piece, Eugenio Suarez. Guardians 2.5 back there, and a couple of teams trying to stay in the race there in the Royals and the Angels there as well. On the NL side, Brewers, Dodgers, and Mets lead your divisions. Cubs, Phillies, Padres in the wild card. Reds still holding tough. Make the trade for Ke'Bryan Hayes and a couple other moves as well. Zach Little goes there to kind of lengthen out that rotation a little bit. Cardinals already have sold Helsley. Giants have really struggled and are selling. So pretty much it's just the Reds as the only team with a chance to make it into that wild card side on the National League. Do you think Kyle Finnegan gets moved? I do. I think he's a lower end closer option, a lower end high leverage option. I think he's probably best utilized in the 7th inning in a really good bullpen. You got one for me, Mark. Astros and Twins. Astros get Griffin Jacks, Castro, Koreah, Cody Clemens for Gusto, Melton, and a few other minor leaguers. It's not a bad starting point, but I think the money on Koreah is the stopping point there. That's a trade for Koreah that I think happens in the offseason because that ownership group right now isn't going to retain money because they're trying to sell the team. Not Me Solo, welcome in. Appreciate you joining us. You're saying Miller to San Diego. That is kind of the discussion at this hour. Let's see if there's any updates there. Nothing yet. But if you are just tuning in, we've been talking quite a bit about Mason Miller for the past half hour. Invite you guys to check it out. Smash the like button, y'all fools, or Mr. T gonna whoop y'all. Love that, Mark. Appreciate you. We got about 89 of you guys with us right now anyway. Only 46 likes. Let's see if we can drum that up a little bit. Only one in the last 10 minutes. Come on, guys. Let's bump that number up just a little bit. You're saying 2 pieces. Do you think the Dodgers will add 2 more bullpen pieces? I think they'll add a closer for sure. I think Mason Miller is a serious option there. But I do think we get a Stephen Kwan trade to the Los Angeles Dodgers. Will Miller be the closer in San Diego? I think they might try to stretch him out as a starter. But I think for the rest of this year, he probably is a closer. Who cares? Jeremy, welcome in. Appreciate you joining us. Durf Boy, welcome in. Rumor is they're going to make him a starter. Yes, but I think next year. I don't think you try to do that in the middle of the year. Especially when you're trying to win a World Series this year. See if anything else is going. Not that hard to hit that thumbs up. Right there with you, Vida. We got a few more likes out of it. Got 6. Let's see if we can bump that up a little bit more. Up to 51. See, the more y'all like, the more people join the chat, the more this gets a lot more fun. Pippi fan, welcome in. How much of buyers do you expect the Angels to be? Seems like the Mariners are all in. I don't think they're quite all in because they're still holding on to the majority of their top prospects. Just look at the Eugenio Suarez deal for what they gave up. They talked up Tyler Locklear during the at Cooperstown during the Hall of Fame ceremonies this weekend, and they were able to hold on to every single one of their top prospects. So, yes, they are in this year, but I don't think they're all in. Otherwise, you're talking Lazaro Montez, you're talking Celestin, you're talking some of their top prospects forward as well. They held on to every single one of those in those deals. Let's see here. Bill, welcome in. Appreciate you joining us. But as far as buyers, the Angels did add a couple of bullpen pieces. I don't think they're going to do much else. They're not necessarily looking to buy here at the deadline. I think they're looking to fortify their bullpen to kind of give their young guys a chance there as well. Red Sox eyeing Robert Suarez. Honestly, with the additions they've already made to that team, I don't think they're really going to do anything. The bullpen, I'm trying to remember the piece that the Red Sox got. Steven Matz, that was it. They added Steven Matz a few hours ago. Remember, just a reminder, we'll be live all day tomorrow during the trade deadline. We'll be starting at minimum at 8 a.m., maybe even earlier, depending on how these trades go. We'll keep going here for a little while longer, kind of breaking down some of the rumors that are happening at this hour. Welcome in Zach, Tommy, Matthew. Got a lot of new people in here. Make sure you guys are hitting that like and subscribe. Got 125 of you guys in here right now. Cease to the bullpen. That's not happening. Cease is going to be a starting pitcher. The Astros are really hot after him, but it sounds like they've cooled a little bit, that they've turned their attention now to Yandi Alcantra. What are your predictions for the next few trades? Number one has got to be Steven Kwan to the Dodgers. I think that one will happen. I'm probably about 95% sure we will see Steven Kwan traded to the Dodgers. I think they're the one team that has the prospects and can easily get the trade done. I think there's several other teams that are in on him, including the Phillies, including the Mets, but they don't necessarily have the prospects that they're willing to give up. DeLion, welcome in. Jacob, appreciate you joining us. As far as other trades, Kwan to the Dodgers I think has got to be one. I think Mason Miller getting traded somewhere is going to be number two. They've been showcasing him for the better part of the last 2 weeks to trade him, and now they didn't use him tonight against the heart of the Mariners order. They give up a home run to Randy Rosarania, but still hold on to win the game. But Mason Miller will be traded. That's number two. Three, I'd probably say Dylan Cease gets moved as well. Seems like the market is really moving on him with the Astros. I'm sure the Blue Jays, Cubs, Mets, Yankees, among others, have all reached out about Dylan Cease. We will see where he ultimately ends up. Tyler, do the Stros get a bat? I think they already added Ramon Urias. I think they're focusing on pitching right now. That starting rotation is where their target lies right now. What do you think Taylor Ward gets moved? I think he probably stays. The way that they added bullpen arms to the Angels today, I think that takes the Angels off of the seller side and puts them more into that kind of standing pat. I think the two arms that they brought in, Luis Garcia and Andrew Chafin, are both just going to sit there and help out that bullpen in the late innings. They've had a lot of young guys back there this year. They had a lot of veterans back there last year, and I think they're mainly going back into that bag of tricks that they had as well. Jake Rohn's contract. Does Fairbanks get moved? The Tampa Bay Rays have been saying no for the better part of the last 2 weeks. I think there's a market for him. I'm not sure that the market really buys into the reliever that Tampa Bay believes him to be. Tampa Bay already has an issue in the late innings there, and they're trying to keep that bullpen together. Even as they sell here at the deadline, I still think they're trying to compete for a wild card. Even though they are selling, they just traded Little to the Reds anyway, in the 3-team deal that included the Dodgers as well. But Fairbanks would get them a nice haul. He just blew a save against the Yankees today. If I were a team looking for a closer, I would look for guys like Bednar. I'd look for guys like Miller first. I might even go for Halverson from the Rockies first before I go to Fairbanks. But he's still a good option. I'm just not sure he's the best option, even with Duran off the board being traded to the Phillies, even with Clase getting suspended. I wouldn't necessarily put him at the top of the heap. I would put him in front of Kyle Finnegan, however. something along those lines. Koreah reunion, put out a video about that earlier today. There is a possibility that Carlos Koreah could end up back with the Houston Astros. Koreah threw a bunch of cold water on that as the rumors were really stacking up around noon today, basically saying that there's a lot of details that need to be worked out, but he'd be willing to go to Houston if there was some type of a deal that was worked out. Now, the money is the bigger issue there. Minnesota is not going to retain money on Carlos Koreah, especially with their ownership in question. Would he be a great third baseman for them? Absolutely. But I think the trade of Ramon Urias from the Baltimore Orioles kind of takes the spot there of Carlos Korea. He is more of a utility player, so they could move Urias, I suppose, if they did bring in Korea or if they did bring in Nolan Arenado. But I think that the Astros have made it clear that they're looking for starting pitching right now, not another bat at the moment. However, I think they'll try to add one later on down the line. Refresh X, I need to know if something happens. Let's go ahead and check it out. All right, a lot of people trying to post their articles for the evening anyway. Jeremy, he's fishing there. Let's see here. Mark, Astros Twins, Astros Marlins, Astros Padres, at least two of those pairings will get done. You think so? I would say one of the two, Astros Padres or Astros Marlins, seems likely. Let's try to catch up on a few of these comments, though. If you guys are new here, be sure to hit that like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. We're at 67 likes with 150 people watching. Let's see if we can bump that number up just a little bit here. See if we can reach that number to 100 today. We'll be live for a little while longer since you guys are all in here. We're going to make sure we keep you guys up to date on all the latest. A couple more notifications. Okay. Hassan Kim to LA to play with Hassan Kim. I don't think that'll happen. I think that'd be kind of cool, but I don't think it'll happen. You lost almost your team today? Yeah. Well, the Twins, I think, are going to be a very active team at the deadline tomorrow. I think they still got a few names to keep an eye out for. Harrison Bader is one of the hotter names on the outfield market. Dodgers, Mets, Phillies, Yankees, Blue Jays, Cubs, Rangers. I'm sure I'm missing a few other teams, but they've all checked in on his market as well. You're right, Jeremy. You hit that like button. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. We'll be live again all day tomorrow, 8 o'clock in the morning. Central. I'm Central Time. I'm in Texas. Being a Twins fan sucks. I started out as a Twins fan, my friend. I still am, but Rangers are now my number one. Like I said, when I do this kind of stuff, I don't like to hide that kind of thing. Stay up front with that kind of thing. Welcome in, Nicole. You don't think Kwan to the Padres? I don't think they have the ammunition. They said that they're not going to trade DeVries. They're not going to trade Salas. And to a certain extent, I believe them that they'll hold on to those players unless there's a certain asset that they're looking for. I think pitching is what they would do that for. I think for a controllable outfielder, they can get that without trading either of those two guys, which means Kwan probably isn't going to be a fit for the Padres. Besides, I think that the Dodgers have so much more prospect talent that they can absorb the cost of what Stephen Kwan would be without having to completely deplete the rest of their farm system. Kwan would only have 2 years left on his deal after the season, whereas if you trade away Ethan Salas or DeVries in that deal if you're the Padres, you're not getting the return on your investment. Jax, you want Yandi Diaz to Boston? I think that one has serious legs as well. Certain reporters, John Heyman, believes that's not going to happen before the deadline. I do believe that this is the year we do see a trade from the Rays for Lau or for Yandi Diaz. So we'll see which one gets moved. Remember, Brendan Lowe was put on the injured list, so I think he's less likely, which means by process of elimination, Yandi Diaz is the name that would likely be traded. Boston is one team that would be a nice fit. Astros have been hot after him for about 2 years now. Rangers are in that market as well for a first baseman of his caliber. I'm still waiting to see the out-of-nowhere names that we haven't even talked about yet. There's always one trade that we see every single trade deadline that marks what that trade deadline is all about. Cliff Lee, the year the Rangers finally went to the World Series, comes to mind. Cole Hamels as well. The Trey Turner and Max Scherzer deal. The Manny Machado deals to the Los Angeles Dodgers. The deal where the Red Sox traded every single one of their big contracts to the Dodgers to kind of save money on their payroll. Adrian Gonzalez, Carl Crawford, David Price, and just shipped them over there and said, hey, take a run at the postseason, take all the money, and we'll take a couple of decent prospects just to get off of the money. What's the trade that we're going to see this year? Welcome in, Bill. If the Phillies don't have enough to get Kwan, who else is a realistic outfielder bat? They have plenty to get Kwan. The question is, are they willing to give it up? I think if Dombrowski had his way, it would already be done, but that's unlikely. I think Kwan for Painter plus probably gets the deal done. But I think the more likely option for them is Robert. If they don't get him, I think Mullins is the third option there. Fairbanks and Hassan Kim to the Cubs. That'd be a really good stack. I would like that as a utility player for the Cubs quite a bit. Fairbanks as a bullpen option would be really nice. I would like that. The return would be a question mark, but I would love that for the Cubs. Andrew, where does Bednar go? I think he goes to one of 2 or 3 places. I think Texas has been after him for about 2 years now. Do they finally get it done? They are looking for a closer, and I expect them to get one. The Tigers are the second team for me. I'm not sure which one I'd consider the favorite out of those 2 teams. And then I'd probably say any combination of the Cubs, Dodgers, Yankees, or the Blue Jays in that third spot there. If I had to pick one of those teams, I'd probably lean the Cubs out of those teams. Let's see here. I know something is going to happen soon. I hope so. Twins friend is depressing. Padres get Mason Miller and Jared Duran. I don't think they're getting both of those guys. Even if they trade Salas, DeVries, and Cease, I think they might be able to get both of those by just a hair, but that would basically wipe out their entire prospect data, their entire return that they would get from Cease, obviously, and wipe out any top-end talent that they have in their farm system. Unlikely, to say the least. Is Arias from the Padres going to get traded? I doubt it. They were looking to save money, but I think trading Dylan Cease will give them the money savings that they are looking for. But I think in the offseason, I doubt he stays in San Diego. So I think he would be a guy that ultimately signs somewhere else this offseason. So it could be the final few months you see him in a Padres uniform. I think there's a little chance Luis moves today, but not likely. Fairbanks could be a good addition to any bullpen. I think he'd be a decent addition. I'm not sure he's the right addition for a lot of bullpens out there. Andrew Biting, first time I think I've seen you in here. If you think Duran will be moving to San Diego from Philly, who the heck do you think would possibly... They're talking about Jarren Duran from the Red Sox, not the Duran that was just traded to Philadelphia. Astros and Rangers trade? That'd be weird. All right, we got 175 of you guys watching. We'll stick around for a little bit longer here. Make sure you guys hit that like and subscribe and join us tomorrow. Well, I should say today, because it's already after midnight here Central Time. We'll be live here in about 7 hours, so be sure to hit that like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Let's see here. They're trying to dump Cronenworth's contract. I think they would love to do something like that and try to get a legitimate first baseman, but we shall see. Danny Colomb is a very underrated reliever that is going to get traded, he bet. The market for him is actually very strong, depressed Twins fan. There's a lot of teams that are checking in on him. I know the Red Sox, Yankees, and the Dodgers were teams that had checked in on Danny Colomb. And according to John Heyman and Joel Sherman both, the market for him was really high. So expect a higher return than normal for Danny Colomb here at the deadline. Evan Harrigan, welcome in. Appreciate you joining us. First time I think I've seen you in the chat. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. It'll be live for pretty much the entire day tomorrow. All day long during the deadline. Be sure to join us. I think the Dodgers will make any trades. I'm expecting Kwan tonight, honestly. A little bit surprised it hasn't happened already, but I think they're probably ironing out some details there. But I'm just waiting for John Heyman to just drop one that says, Kwan to LA, done, and that's it. But, I think that's a trade that we could very well see here very shortly. Do you think Luis Robert could return in 2023 form with a change of scenery? I think he's already doing a lot better. His defense has improved. The offensive numbers are coming back. It's looking good. Andrew, do you think Atlanta could make Profar available? No. The reason being is because he was suspended this year for PEDs, which makes him ineligible for the postseason. He will not be traded. Now, in the offseason, they might revisit that kind of a thing, but it ain't happening right now. Zach, thank you for the 5. Really do appreciate that. Any teams interested in MLB saves leader Robert Suarez, and what is he worth? I know the Rangers have kicked the tires on him for the better part of a year and a half. I'd say the Cubs are another team that had reached out. The Astros are another team. Blue Jays were another one. Trying to remember. I think the Mets already filled their holes, but I think they were in that conversation as well. But as far as, I think those would be the teams. As far as what is he worth, If you're looking for a controllable major league corner outfielder, it's not going to be much. You're probably talking like Alejandro Osuna type of a piece from the Rangers. Not a whole lot. But if you're looking for prospects, you could probably get maybe a top 10 prospect, maybe another top 20 prospect in exchange for him. Remember, top 100 guys off of the entire MLB list are very rarely traded. The first time we had that done in 3 years actually happened today with Yohan Duran going to Philadelphia in exchange for Eduardo Tate and Mick Abel. Abel's having a great year. Should be a nice piece for that Twins rotation next year. And as far as Tate, he's going to go, I believe, to A-ball. But he was ranked number 56, I believe, on MLB's pipeline list. But thank you very much for that super chat. I really do appreciate that. Goes a long way to helping us out. Ultimate Sports Network, welcome in. Appreciate you joining us. You heard the Red Sox. Well, they just remember they just added Steven Matz. Even with the injury to Chapman, I think bringing in the lefty Matz is going to solve their needs in the bullpen. I doubt they go after a Suarez, especially with Hicks there. Now, Hicks has got, what, a 1-7 record this year? Shaky in the way in that bullpen role so far this season. But they've at least got a short-term option until Chapman gets back, who's been probably the best reliever along with Morahone in baseball this season. Your content guy, welcome in. Appreciate you joining us. Where could Joe Ryan grow? With prices so high right now for starting pitching in general here at the deadline, I think there's an outside chance he moves, but more likely it's in the offseason. As far as cost, we made a couple of Joe Ryan trades earlier this week. We made one during our live today. But as far as the cost, it's going to be exorbitant. You're probably talking at least one top 100 prospect, probably two. Remember, the ask for Duran, the ask for Jax was at least one top 100 guy, or at least they were looking for at least two. They would settle for one, and that's ultimately what they got from the Philadelphia Phillies. I think for Joe Ryan, they would insist on getting two of them. So we'll see. As far as where could he go, Cubs to me, kind of stand out. Yankees stand out as well. Say you include a Lombard, a Schlitter, a Cunningham, and a couple other small pieces, LaGrange. That could get you close to a deal there. Joe Ryan to the Yankees. You want the Phillies to trade Miller or Crawford? If you're getting a decent piece back in center for Crawford, I think it'd be worth it. A controllable piece like Quan. But we'll see. Duran for Suarez and prospects. Not happening. Duran is not moving out of Philadelphia. They just acquired him. He will be their closer into the postseason. If you're going to ever trade him again, if you're Philadelphia, it'd be in the offseason or going forward. That'd mean the trade really didn't work out for you, though. What would it cost for Philly to get Rooker? Rooker is not moving this year at the deadline. There's an outside chance Tyler Soderstrom could be available from the A's due to his inability to play his natural position first base. That would mean he'd have to go to a team that has a hole at first base. Now, could Philly get Rooker to kind of help out in the DH role? I don't think that'd be a good move for them either. They're going to need that DH spot for Schwarber or whoever else they want to put in that spot. Rooker would be a nice bat, don't get me wrong, but I don't think he does anything defensively for that team or help as far as the lineup construction. Jeremy, will Phil Maton be traded? Absolutely. Mets are seen as the likely fit for him. They've already added, three relievers so far at the deadline. I think he would make the final piece there. Acuna Jr., he isn't moving. He's in a walking boot right now with an Achilles injury. Do you think Crawford would go in the Roberts deal? No. Crawford is way too valuable for that. I think his value is actually three or four times as valuable as Robert. Jarren Duran for Suarez. Jarren Duran is like $43 million in value. Suarez is around $3 million. I'll let you do the math on that one. How much money can Texas bring in? You're looking about $8 million in tax. So Duran, if they had brought him in, would only have been around $2 million. They still have money to do something or do interesting things with here at the deadline. Now, they couldn't take on Carlos Korea, for instance, but they could do some interesting moves here at the deadline that would make some serious improvements to the bullpen and to that lineup. Melvin, where do you have Verlander going? I kind of like the idea of him going back to Detroit or Houston. The Giants, if you guys missed our show earlier in the video, we talked about the San Francisco Giants waving the white flag on the season with the MLB's worst record since they made the trade for Rafi Devers. They made a great trade sending Tyler Rogers to the New York Mets for an incredible haul of prospects. They did really well on that trade, but Verlander, immediately after that trade was done, was basically announced as he was available on the market. I think the Tigers or Astros both could use him as a number 5 starter in their rotation. If he plays up, absolutely great. But if not, hey, just the nostalgia alone, all that kind of thing makes sense as well. But I think he's been a little bit better than even I expected him to be this year. Early on, didn't exactly have the same success, but so far So he's had a decent year, period. This is probably his final swan song, but we'll see where he goes. I do think he will be moved. You heard that their Cubs and Guardians are talking blockbuster involving Kyle Tucker and Shane Bieber. Tucker ain't moving, obviously. Bieber would be a nice option for a lot of teams. His name is one that is being dangled. Let's see here. Would Tyler Ward be a good trade for the Guardians? Ward is not getting traded. Angels already made their buy addition to their bullpen, adding a couple of relievers. They are unlikely to sell any of their assets at this deadline. Let's see here. I think the Phillies make a small move. I hope I'm wrong. I think they'll make a smaller move, like a Robert, like a Mullen, something along those lines. You see Verlander staying in San Francisco. That's not out of the question. I mean, he is a veteran. I think they're going to kind of defer to him a little bit, kind of let him decide if he wants to stay there or go. Because I think part of the reason why you bring in Verlander this past offseason was for legitimacy. And just to go ahead and jettison him for a A-ball prospect just because you need something back, I think would kind of undo the goodwill that Verlander signing there got you. Astros don't want him. Third time's not the charm. I think they are looking for Dylan Cease or Sandy Alcantara more likely, but I wouldn't rule it out as kind of a depth trade for them. Where's Hauser going? I think he'd be a great option for a lot of teams out there. I would have loved him going to the Chicago Cubs, honestly, rather than Mike Soroka. But if I had to pick a team for Hauser, New York at the back of their rotation makes some sense as kind of a rental option. I think their preference is to go for controllable guys, but Hauser I think would be cheap enough to where they could afford him as a rental, and he's been very good this year. I think it's sub-2 ERA so far this year. He's been very good. Brett Jacobs, welcome in. Appreciate you joining us. I think you were the one with that comment, though. Where would Robert's deal include? I would guess the most likely spots for him, Philly, Mets. I'd kind of stop the list there. Other teams might be interested, but I think those two would probably be the most likely. After today, do you think the Twins clean house? Jax, Castro, Ryan traded, and Rocco fired? Ryan, I think, is unlikely. Jackson, Castro will. Bader will. I think they'll try to. I think they'll really look at Ryan, but I doubt they get a deal done. You don't see any other team than Detroit wanting Verlander as a nostalgia move, possibly. But pitching prices are high right now, so maybe you get a hot Verlander for the final couple of months. There will be front offices that see Verlander's name on the market and say, heck, he's a good pitcher. We'll take a flyer on him because we know he's done it before, and maybe he can do it again. Welcome in, Joseph. Appreciate you joining us for the first time. I think I've seen you in the chat. Alan, welcome in. If you guys are new here, be sure to hit that like and subscribe. We'll be live at 8 o'clock in the morning, bringing you all the latest from the MLB trade deadline. Got a lot of people in our chat right now, so we're going to hang around for a little while. What do you think about Kyle Schwarber to Cleveland, possibly? He's not getting traded at the deadline. Philly's trying to go all out this year. This is the final year of this group as currently constructed that they'll have to try to win. Verlander's salary at the start of the year was 15, so he's probably got like 6 left on it, maybe 5 at this point. Andrew, a small move as a Phillies fan. I'd be disappointed. I want the Phillies to go all in. I want a World Series now. Well, there's not really much more that you could really add. I'd say maybe a Mason Miller if you're looking for a high-end piece. Maybe a Stephen Kwan as another high-end piece. But I think that would basically take you the rest of your top-end pieces. I think the more likely option is Luis Robert, which I really like for your bullpen or for your center field spot, and then for your bullpen, I'd be looking for names along the lines of not maybe like a Pete Fairbanks type, a guy that I picture a better 8th inning guy for them in front of Duran. Somebody along those lines would be a really good get. Small moves disappointed. Andrew, do you have an idea when Buxton will come off the IL? Could the Phillies offer enough in prospects to get? No, Buxton says he's staying, and he's got a no trade. Minnesota is saying that he's staying. They're not even really talking about him at all with any teams. As far as when he could come off the IL, I'm guessing within the next couple of weeks. Miller or Bednar? I would like Bednar as pretty much anybody's closer right now. I think he's really had a nice year. Blockbuster trade Cardinals, you think? Donovan's the name that's out there if you're a Cardinals fan. I think the most likely name for them to move, obviously, is still going to be the reliever Maton. But I wouldn't rule out a Newt Bar trade. That his name was floated out there a couple of weeks ago with the Los Angeles Dodgers. Unlikely, but still possible. Evan Grant have the $1 million before tax, so it's annoying listening to him. He's not exactly the most up on the finances. He's got a couple. There's a lot of different sources that say a lot of different things, but as far as with bonuses, I think it's closer to the one. But I think that they did a nice job saving on the Leody Tavares thing. I think they saved some money on Dunning. They saved the bonuses on Jackson. They're trimming a little bit of money here. There's even a possibility Like Evan Grant says, that they could trade away John Gray for even more financial flexibility if they need it, but they don't really need it right now. If the bonuses hit and they go all the way to the World Series and win, then I think you'd be more than willing to pay the tax if you win a World Series out of it. But if you're set up to not pay the tax if you don't get that far, I think that's what their managing partner, their managing owner anyway, Ray Davis would prefer. Tyler, you streaming tomorrow? Yes, I'll be streaming all day. We'll be live at about 8 a.m. through the deadline till probably about 6 or 7 in the evening. Who is Doval going to, you think? I think the Giants declaring themselves as a seller, I think he's going to have a nice market out there. Several teams have been interested in the past. Reds being one such team, I think he would probably be the most likely to go to Cincinnati. Other teams, I think Philadelphia would be a great setup guy. He's done setup before. Rangers, if they don't like any of the other options, they were interested in him 2 years ago. They cooled on him for whatever reason. Maybe they could reignite that as well. Verlander to Texas, thoughts? No, thank you. The Rangers already have 5 starters. They already have a couple more starters that are waiting in the wings for any opportunity to start. And Verlander is worse than almost every single one of those options. He's not going to Texas. Detroit can get Maton, Pickle, Peanut Butter. Okay. Welcome in. That's a very interesting name, though. Maton, I do think, is most likely for the Mets, but the Tigers make some sense as well. Let's update our page here, see if anything is happening. Nothing as of yet. Even Finnegan you would like. I just don't like Finnegan. I think there are better options. Does Nader go to Houston? I think Houston's going to look for starting pitching first right now. I think not Castro. Dylan Cease from San Diego is probably the most likely guy that goes to Houston. I think they'll revisit that conversation in the morning if they don't get a deal done for Sandy Alcantara. Ethan, I'm coming over, buddy. You cooking eggs and bacon? I'm going to be making probably omelets early in the morning. I haven't had an omelet in a while, and I've got omelet stuff ready. Maybe even have a steak on the side with it because I got one steak left I got to cook. Split that with the missus. She did a good job making the steak tonight as I had to work all day, so I had her make the steak. Let's see here. Cardinals need an impact catcher hitter. They're not going to be adding here at the deadline. In the offseason, I think they'll do something like that. But they're looking to sell and kind of retool their roster a little bit and see what these young guys can do. And if they win, and get into the wild card spot, even better for their development. Do you see a remaining move that could be made by Philly to get Harper to move back to the outfield? No. I think they moved him to first to kind of save his health more than anything else. And I don't see them ever changing him back. How long until Miller is dealt? It looked like it was white hot for a minute there, but I would expect him to move either late tonight, like 1 a.m., or probably early in the morning tomorrow. We're probably talking 10 or 11 in the morning. We got a trade box of chocolates for a baseball. I'd take a box of chocolates right now. Got to be that dark chocolate, though. Cashman's sitting on his hands. Well, he's already made a few moves. I think the biggest thing that he still needs to do, and needed to do from the beginning of this, was to add a starting pitcher. They still haven't done that. Bieber for Dylan? No. Dylan Cease doesn't make any sense to Cleveland. Seattle is a trade deadline winner so far. Honestly, I gotta agree with you there. I like the bullpen piece. Caleb Ferguson, underrated piece, should be a nice bridge to Munoz, who's been probably the best closer in the game so far this year, along with Aroldis Chapman and Suarez as well. But I do like the Mariners' additions. My question is, can their pitching staff get to the level that were expected to do, that they were expected to play at going into the year? This was supposed to be the best rotation they've ever had. They haven't quite lived up to it. The best rotation in the game has been the Texas Rangers by a mile, a full 100 earned runs less than the Mariners pitching staff. Check your notification. Interesting, I'll say that in my notifications. Following me, appreciate you. Buster Only, small sample size theater. The Angels had prep for the possibility of trading players, but after a win last night, they moved into buy mode. They could sell one or two pieces, notably Kenley Jansen, but Angels don't. The Angels want to make a push. Shocker, Artie Moreno wants to push forward. Who's the Cardinals stopper now, closer? They don't really have one. I think they're going to go the youth movement there and see if they can develop one, which is what they should do in the second half here. Let's see here. I like this Bieber to Texas. Don't let him pitch this year, and he will accept $16 million deal for next year. I like it. Molly deal 2.0. That screams a lot more like Corey Kluber to me, especially from Cleveland. No, thank you. I don't want to relive that trade there. That's what made us lose Emmanuel Clase. But you could argue by Kluber not working out is why they made the additions of DeGrom and Eovaldi and kind of how those dominoes worked out. Because if Kluber had worked out and they signed him to an extension, there's no DeGrom, there's no Eovaldi, there's no World Series. And the Angels are still bad. They're a middling team. They're going to be bad for a while, though. Do you think Mullins or Haynes gets traded from the Orioles? I would say, or Hearn, okay. I'd say both of those guys go. I think O'Hearn probably goes pretty soon here. Grayson, welcome in. Appreciate you joining us. Trying to keep up with as many of you guys in the chat. If I do miss your chat, I do apologize. Got a few people doing the super chat. If you can always do that to kind of make sure I say your comment as well. Since we're going to have a lot of people during our live here in a few hours, make sure you guys are with us during our trade deadline coverage. We should have quite the audience. Usually during trade deadline day, we're well over 200 people in our chat, so sometimes it can get a little hairy. If you guys want to do a super chat, you can. I would greatly appreciate it. Goes a long way to supporting the channel, so thank you guys. Welcome in, Grayson, though. Dylan Cease and O'Hearn to the Angels confirmed. I mean, it is Artie Moreno. I doubt that anything is off limits for them, but I think that seems a little far-fetched, even for me. Jacob, do you think Miller to the Pods tonight? I think it's possible. I think that's the type of trade that might happen at like midnight on the West Coast. We'll see. Welcome in, Hank. You know what they say, no matter what, there's always an upside. Sports Network, thank you, my friend. Welcome in tonight. Dom D, welcome in. Thoughts on Dominguez for Kwan? I think Kwan is a perfect fit to the top of the lineup of the Yankees. I would love that, but I don't think the Yankees would. I think the Yankees, really like that power, the big tools type of players. Kwan isn't that. He's an on-base guy. And while I think he would be perfect for what the Yankees need, I think they're not moving Dominguez in any trade anyway, but I think he's not the type of player they typically target. Do you think the Cubs need some pitching? Their pitching is struggling. I thought they've needed pitching all season long, before the season even began, before Justin Steele had went down due to injury. They need an ace. They need a number 3-4 type starter in there. Your Game 1 starter, I don't think, is on your roster right now for a postseason game. Game 2 probably is Boyd. Game 3 is Imanaga. But Dylan Cease looks a lot better at the top of that rotation. Merrill Kelly, Zach Gallen. We haven't talked a lot about the arms available from the Diamondbacks, but they will likely move at least one, possibly two of those guys tomorrow. So we shall see. Please, Astros, go get Cease or Alcantra. I think they're focusing on that number 3 starter right now. I think they will get one, especially after they address their third base needs with Ramon Urias going there shortly, just a short time ago. You think Cease is getting moved? I think he is getting moved. I think it's a 100% chance right now, Dodo. Welcome in. Knowledge Untamed, appreciate you joining us. Got a lot of new faces in the chat. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe if you haven't already. Really do appreciate that. Saw those hearts pop up. We got 87 likes. Let's see if we can get it over 100 before we log out tonight. Remember, we'll be live in about 6 or 7 hours. Cubs control this deadline right now. I think they have so many top-end targets that they're chasing that they just need to pick one and try to get the deal done. Ward, Robert, or Stephen Kwan, who do the Padres get? Ward, no. Robert, no. Kwan, possible, but I'd say he goes to the Dodgers. Thomas, welcome in, though. Appreciate you joining us. Derek, appreciate you joining us as well. Guardians should keep Kwan, but Mariners should also try and get him. Mariners, I think, would prefer to hold on to their assets right now. I think that's part of the reason why they got Suarez for as cheap as they did, because they talked up Tyler Locklear so much that the Diamondbacks bought it without having to get a top-end piece out of their system. Marlins basically fleeced the Diamondbacks in that deal, but I doubt they're going to turn around and then trade for Stephen Kwan. As much as Kwan would really help out that roster and make it a, quote, all-in deadline for them, I think the most likely team for is the Dodgers right now for his services, and I do think that deal gets done relatively soon. Looks like we just had another notification. Rosenthal. What do you got for me, Rosenthal? More on the Rays? Okay. Do you think the Padres get Miller, and if not, who do they get? I think they're looking for a controllable outfielder. I think there's a good chance a guy like Dylan Cease goes to Houston, Melton comes back the other way, and they just end the deal there. Starting pitchers are what? 12 good starting pitchers. After the first 1-2 go, Cubs will control the market. If that makes sense, the prospects will be spent by other teams. I mean, we've already seen a couple of guys go already, but most of those guys are relievers. There's been a couple of starters that moved, but not really. The top end starters are all still out there. Cabrera is still out there right now. Ryan is still out there. The rental options are still out there. We just saw Zach Little get moved to the Reds, one of the first names here on the starting pitching side that got moved. Not sure people fully realize how stacked the Mariners system is. They haven't even touched any of their top 7 to 8 prospects, all top 100. True, they're going to be good for a long time, and that's why Jerry DiPoto was a wizard at getting that deal done without including one of those guys. Even for a rental, unlikely to get that type of return, but still, the restraint is admirable. Let's see here. I still think the Cubs need to go for one of the top options and not try to go for one of these middling guys. I think they need an ace. What would be the player prospect floor Philly would need to give up for Robert at this point? Something low cost. I thought Mick Abel would be a great option for them, but somebody in that $5-6 million valuation point is what you'd really look for. Do the Pirates trade a starting pitcher? Keller's market has kind of cooled down from what it sounds like. I'm not buying that the Pirates are not going to sell off a lot of assets here, though. I think Santana goes. I think Bednar goes. I think Pham goes. I think Isaiah Kiner-Falefa goes. They just traded Brian Hayes. I think they'd love to move off the money of Brian Reynolds. Going out of business sale if you would be, or if you could even say there. But we'll see. To me, the Pirates need to do the wise thing here and trade from their strength here, the starting pitching, and add some bats that really make an improvement here. Unlikely that they move O'Neill Cruz though. Starting pitcher hasn't moved. Prospects are being spent by the heavy contenders for the most part. A lot of National League trades though. Chances Joe Ryan goes to the Cubs. 5%. What is the percent that the Padres get Miller? I'll go 40%. Because I think Miller will be moved. That's absolutely what the A's are doing. The question is, when do they do it? Heyman, it always felt like the Mariners just need a little offense to really do something special. And today they have the MLB home run leader, Raleigh, and the MLB RBI co-leaders, Raleigh and Suarez. Big deadline win. True. 98 likes. We're very close. Let's see if we can bump that over 100 before we get out of here. Hit that like button if you haven't already. Jacob, welcome in. Joe Williams, appreciate you joining us. Again, we'll be live at 8 o'clock. I got to go ahead and log off here shortly, so make sure you guys hit that like and subscribe. Looks like the rumors have pretty much died down for the evening. Nothing new in the last half hour, but I really do appreciate you guys joining us this evening. A lot of new faces in our chat. Be sure to join us 8 a.m. 7 hours from now. We'll be back live here at the Upside. You like Carlos Santana to the Red Sox? I don't think that the Guardians would be opposed to trading him. He really likes playing in Cleveland, though. Remember, this is his third time playing for Cleveland. But we shall see. Thumbs it up, or Waffle House gets shut down. Uh-oh. That's Armageddon, my friend. Don't want Waffle House shutting down. All right. Appreciate you guys talking some baseball with me. Long day the last couple of days, working open to close, and then having a couple hour long lives afterward. And I'm really excited for the trade deadline. It's been nothing but crickets for the first 3 days of the week. We finally get a bunch of deals today, and hopefully we get even more tomorrow. I'm still waiting for the, oh my God, they traded that player trade. We haven't really seen that yet. Not any of the names that have been out there yet are surprising. You know, like Fernando Tatis Jr. for some reason gets dealt. That would be an oh my gosh type of a move. Matt Olson, we've talked about a lot on this show. Nobody else is really talking about on the national media side. That would still qualify as an oh my gosh type of a move. So let's see what type of players surprise us tomorrow. What's the big surprise move that we see? So looking forward to see who that player could be. I guarantee it's not anybody I've even talked about. So that's what I'm looking for as well, and ultimately seeing which teams pony up to get the Stephen Kwans of the world, to get the Griffin Jacksons of the world. Where does Verlander end up, I think, is a real conversation for tomorrow as well. And once Kwan goes, I'm telling you guys, keep an eye on Jose Ramirez from the Guardians as well. Thank you guys for the 100 likes. Really do appreciate you guys joining this content tonight. Hit that like and subscribe. Hit that bell at the bottom of the screen as well. Turns on your notifications for when we do go live. You can follow us on X at UpsideSN. We will post when we go live there as well. And on Facebook, Upside Sports Network too. Really do appreciate you guys joining us this evening. Send all your trade ideas if you want. After our video closes out anyway, you can post it on one of our short videos we did today. I'll try to go through those before I get on air tomorrow and try to go through a few of those as well. Let's see here. You actually think Javier Assad is going to be the Cubs ace no matter who we trade for? I don't know. I still think they need an actual ace, not a theoretical one. Somebody who's actually been there, done that. If they're all in this year, which is what they said from the outset when they made the move for Kyle Tucker, was they're all in. Well, if you're all in, you're not going with a guy who's never done it before. And they did a nice move bringing in Matt Boyd, a signing I didn't really like at the time. He had pitched so little last year for the Guardians. I wasn't a complete buyer in that turnaround as far as his stuff, command, success, all those kinds of things. Boy, did he prove me wrong. And, heck of a signing for the Cubbies there. But they still need an ace. Somebody to go in front of him, take the ball in game 1, Boyd take the ball in game 2, maybe a Gore, maybe a Cease, something along those lines. They need to do something like that. If they don't, I think the Cubs fall behind the Dodgers. They fall behind the Phillies. They fall behind the Mets to me. I think the Brewers are a better, starting rotation right now than what the Cubs have. So, Cubs need to add an ace. That's their mission tomorrow. Add an ace. The rest of that stuff, all secondary. Add an ace and you're good. But we shall see. I'm still expecting Quan, still expecting Miller as far as the bigger names to move, but we shall see. Still expecting Cabrera as well. But thank you guys for joining us this evening. Q50, Bob, welcome in. First time I think I've seen you in there as well. Party, welcome in as well. Dodgers got to grab Quan. I think that one will happen. Thank you for the compliment there, Bob. Really do appreciate that. Again, we'll be live 8 a.m. Hit that like, subscribe. Thank you guys so much. Stay safe out there, everybody, and we'll see you in about 7 hours. Stay safe.